The emperor, who had loved his throne so much all his life, finally died. It was a piece of shocking news for Tianshui, and even the states around it. But it did not attract too much attention in the Fire Crow Empire, and only some nobles had sent housekeepers as their representatives to mourn. The next day, Qin Yu ascended the throne as the new emperor and rewarded all those who had rendered meritorious service. Yun Xiao was made the king of Wuxia, and the most prosperous city in Tianshui, Yanwu, was given to him as his permanent fief. The reward immediately caused a shock in the court. No one dared to say it openly, but countless memorials were sent to the throne. However, they were all returned by Qin Yu. Yanwu was located in the northernmost part of Tianshui. It was a fortress connecting the Fire Crow Empire and a central link between Tianshui and the continent. If the city were sealed off, traffic between the entire Tianshui and the continent would be completely cut off. Therefore, it could be said to be the second most important city in Tianshui besides the capital. In addition to its extremely important military strategic position, Yanwu was also the most prosperous commercial city of Tianshui. Bordered by the Fire Crow Empire in the north, it was the only transit route for all goods. The unique geographical location had made it even more prosperous than the capital. Therefore, the decision of giving such an important city to a king was baffling and unacceptable by the courtiers. But, with all the memorials sent to the throne returned, everyone began to realize Yun Xiao's weight in his majesty's heart, and they fell silent one by one. Most surprising of all, Yun Xiao did not show up on the day Qin Yu ascended the throne and rewarded those who had rendered meritorious service. Even the eunuch who brought the imperial edict to him did not see him after waiting for half of the day, and was forced to leave the imperial edict behind. When the eunuch returned to the imperial palace and reported that to Qin Yu, instead of flying into a rage, he heaved a sigh of relief and laughed, even rewarding the eunuch. That made all the courtiers break out in cold sweats, and since then, no one dared to speak ill of Yun Xiao. Since he came back from the welcoming platform, Yun Xiao had been in seclusion, seeing no one. He had always regarded Ruxue as his younger sister, and she was also one of the few good friends he had in this lifetime. When they were in Jialan Academy, she had been caring for and protecting him even before his memory had awakened. In front of him, his sister was abducted by someone, and yet there was nothing he could do to save her. The powerless feeling made him almost go completely insane. He was once in existence who would kill anyone who got in his way, but he could not even do anything to an aristocratic family of a small empire now. That filled his heart with a monstrous hatred. After returning to the Li family, he immediately went into seclusion and began the most brutal training. Li Chunyang, Xiao Qingwang, and the others got together to discuss several times, but they were all at their wits' end. Luo Yunshang, on the other hand, was hiding quietly near the Li family. She thought that man would definitely show up at this critical moment. However, she never saw him, and hence she was slightly disappointed. 7 days later, Yun Xiao finally came out from his seclusion. After receiving the notice from the servants, Li Chunyang left everything at hand behind and rushed over. When he met Yun Xiao, he was shocked at the sight. A 4-stars martial master. You don't have to work so desperately, do you? Desperately? Yun Xiao paused for a moment, then smiled and said, "Which warrior doesn't have to practice desperately? I need several kinds of herbs, Grandpa. Help me gather as much as you can." Li Chunyang said in astonishment, "Is that a smile on your face? Are you smiling? Are you all right?" Yun Xiao chuckled and said, "Do you want me to cry? Don't think I attach great importance to the match in 3 months. When the time comes, I'll just go there and kill that guy and bring Ruxue back. As for that Zhou family, if they dare to provoke me, I'll destroy it altogether. With Wang Chen's promise, I trust Ruxue will be safe during this period." Li Chunyang thought Yun Xiao was just venting, so he did not take it seriously. As long as his grandson was well, he would be content. He took the list of herbs and said, "I will gather them for you even if I need to turn the whole Tianshui upside down." While frowning, Yun Xiao said, "I'm afraid that some of the herbs aren't available in Tianshui. You may need to ask Zhang Qingfan." Suddenly, they heard a roar, and dark thunder flew down from the sky in the next instant and landed beside Yunxiao, rubbing its head against his arm. Then, a loud voice rang out, "Don't run away from me, you bastard! How can you run away after beating me?" In the next moment, Li Changfeng rushed over. At the sight of his son, his face beamed. "Yunxiao, you've come out of seclusion." But, when he looked down at the beast who was being affectionate, he froze. How can such a fierce beast act like a pet dog? How did you train it? Teach me quickly. When I subdue it, I will ride it to the battlefield and scare the shit out of the enemy soldiers with just a roar. Haha, I'll be invincible then. Yunxiao caressed Dark Thunder's head and said seriously, "Dad, do you still want to go to war in the future? Haven't you thrown these secular affairs out of your mind? For people like us, it is the pinnacle of martial arts that we should be pursuing. If you could focus and devote yourself to practice, you might have broken through and become a martial king." That gave Li Changfeng a pause, and then he cried out angrily, "Who do you think you are, boy? Do I need to be lectured by you?" Bam! He was immediately hit on the head and fell face down to the ground. Li Chunyang gave him a few more kicks on the back and growled, "Be more polite when you talk to Yunxiao. Yunxiao is right, you are not allowed to go to war in the future. I want you to focus on your cultivation, and you are not allowed to come out of seclusion until you break through and become a martial king." Ah! Li Changfeng was stunned. He put his arms around his head and said painfully, "I'm just a 6-stars martial lord. Who knows how long it will take me to break through and become a martial king? Dad, I'm afraid you won't see me again in your life if you do that to me. Get out of here, you worthless brat. Don't tell others that you are my son." Li Chunyang furiously kicked his son's back a few more times before throwing him into the air with one last kick. Li Changfeng spun several turns in the air before he put a foot down and ran away in midair. With a wry smile, Yunxiao took out several bottles of medicinal pills from his pocket and said, "Give these to Dad and tell him to cultivate in seclusion for at least some time. Soon, he will break through and become a martial king." Li Chunyang's eyes lit up, and he quickly put the bottles away. "Hee, do you have more of such good things for your grandpa?" Yunxiao thought for a moment, then shook his head and said, "I don't have any medicinal pills suitable for your level. You can continue to take the 1,000 birds pills I gave you the last time. When the materials are ready, I plan to refine another batch of medicinal pills. I'll make sure everyone has plenty." Li Chunyang was taken aback. There had never been an alchemist who dared to say that he would provide everyone plenty of medicinal pills. Perhaps only his grandson could say that. After that, Yunxiao continued his cultivation in seclusion. This time, Dark Thunder refused to leave and insisted on staying by his side. In the absence of any other way, he had to take it with him into the secret chamber. Soon, the list of herbs reached Zhang Qingfan and Qin Yu, and then the whole Tianshui began to take action. If someone could find one of the herbs, his official rank would be promoted directly. And if someone hid any of the herbs and did not submit it to the authorities, he and his whole family would be executed. Under this high-handed policy, all aristocratic families hurriedly rummaged through their treasuries, fearing that they might have some of the required herbs. Before very long, almost all the materials were gathered except for pure sacred crystal and 100 water. Perhaps there were no such things in Tianshui. Yunxiao expressed great satisfaction after carefully examining all the materials. But he then frowned and said, "Pure sacred crystal is the main material for refining 9 orifices pills, which can be delayed for the time being, but you must find 100 water for me. It is the main material used to refine golden 6 sun pills, which is the only medicinal pill that can save Ji Meng, who has been in a coma." Li Chunyang said bitterly, "We have turned the whole Tianshui upside down several times. Why don't you tell me where to find it?" Yunxiao frowned. "If it really can't be found here, our only option is to send someone to the Sea of Soul Formation. They will be available there." The Sea of Soul Formation was home to the headquarters of the Alchemist Association, which was also the holy land for all alchemists. Any material in the world, even if it only existed once, could be found there, as long as one could afford to pay the price. Zhang Qingfan said, The Sea of Soul formation is too far away from here, and it will take too long to make a round trip. It doesn't have to be so troublesome. The Firecrow Empire's annual Thousand Treasures Trade Fair is just 3 days away, and this year, it will be held in your fief, Yanwu. Thousand Treasures Trade Fair? Li Chunyang suddenly clapped his hands. Oh, how did I forget about it? The 5-yearly ranking battle is coming up, and the fair will definitely be held before that. Now that you and Master Suhan have decided to stay here, Tianshui will be promoted directly to an upper-rank state, and Yanwu is indeed the best place to hold the trade fair. Yanwu, Yunxiao said while frowning. My fief? Thousand Treasures Trade Fair? It is also held here. The Thousand Treasures Trade Fair was organized by Myriad Treasures Store, the most mysterious chamber of commerce on the heavenly Martial continent. In his previous life, Yunxiao had been to many of their auctions, so he knew that they did have many good things. He just did not expect a small empire like Firecrow to hold the trade fair every year. Zhang Qingfan felt a little dizzy. Young Master Yun, do you really turn a deaf ear to what is happening out there? Don't you know that His Majesty has made you king of Wuqing and given you the city of Yanwu as your permanent hereditary fief? Well, the main character is always the last to know. Yunxiao smiled and said, to me, a permanent hereditary fief is just a trick. When you have the power, you can keep the fief, but when your descendants become weak one day, the so-called permanent fief can always be taken back. Only common people will value these elusive things. That gave Zhang Qingfan a pause. With a wry smile on his face, he exchanged a look with Li Chunyang and said, Young Master Yun, I didn't expect you, although young, to be more collected than old men like us. Li Chunyang said, Myriad Treasure Store has been operating in the Firecrow Empire for hundreds of years and holds a large-scale trade fair and auction every year. There are many rare things to be found, even 5th-tier materials or alchemy products. I'm sure you can find what you want there. 5th tier. Yunxiao immediately separated the Thousand Treasures Trade Fair and the auctions he had participated in before, which only accepted materials of at least 8th tier. Li Chunyang said, Thousand Treasures Trade Fair only accepts primordial stones or barter. I will exchange primordial stones in large quantities during these days. Zhang Qingfan added, I still have a lot of primordial stones. I'll lend them to young Master Yun if needed. Yunxiao casually took off his ring and gave it to Li Chunyang. Exchange everything inside into primordial stones. Master Zhang, I plan to refine my sword Black Girl, and I need to borrow an alchemy chamber. His eyes lighting up, Zhang Qingfan said hurriedly, the best alchemy chamber in Tianshui is owned by the Alchemist Association. I'll inform Suhan right now. To them, watching Yunxiao refine something was not only a visual enjoyment, but also an opportunity to learn something new. Such an opportunity was rare and could not be asked for. Yunxiao laughed and said, I'll go with you then. After they left, Li Chunyang sent his divine sense into the ring. What he saw turned his mind completely blank, and he almost fainted. The amount of wealth inside was beyond his imagination. They were things Yunxiao looted from various cities and won from Sun Zhengzong. All the useful things had been separated by him, and these were all useless to him. Even without the Thousand Treasures Trade Fair, he would still exchange them all for primordial stones. Soon, the whole Li family began busy purchasing and exchanging primordial stones, which directly caused the price of primordial stones in the capital to jump by at least threefold. In the Alchemist Association, when Suhan heard that Yunxiao was coming to refine a sword, he immediately jumped out of his seclusion. Lu Yao had just moved all the documents that needed to be settled urgently but had been piled up for some time into his room, but in the next instant, they were all thrown out of the windows by him as he even ordered, Do not let anyone disturb us even if the sky is falling. That frightened Lu Yao, because she had never seen him so fierce. But, when she saw Yunxiao walk into an alchemy chamber with a smile, she immediately understood what had happened. Yunxiao took out Black Girl and observed it for some time, then began to ponder carefully. Both Zhang Qingfan and Suhan stood excitedly to the side as they held their breath and watched him without blinking their eyes. The array of 100-fold gravitational force can be used as a surprise attack when the opponent is a great martial master. but it will be completely useless when I'm against a martial lord. I guess it can be removed. After murmuring to himself, Xiao threw the sword into the air and crushed a superior-grade primordial stone with his hand before blasting it out with his primordial qi. The powder kindled and turned into a stream of fire, completely enveloping the sword and tempering it. With the arrays and various seals wiped away, the sword turned into a long black bar. Then, Xiao began taking all kinds of materials out of his ring and adding them to it while throwing out various hand seals to fuse them together. Zhang Qingfan and Su Han's eyes grew wide, and their hearts were filled with shock. Is young Master Yun trying to refine a first-tier mystic weapon directly to third-tier, skipping a tier? Can this be even done? Both men exchanged a look in terror, and then they smiled wryly at the same time. Almost every time Xiao refined something, he broke their common sense, and they were starting to almost get used to it. Shaking their heads, they continued to watch attentively. Very soon, the sword was completely tempered, turning flat and thin and looking like a normal sword. The sword embryo's surface rippled with streaks of light, which showed that it was sentient and forging itself by absorbing the surrounding power. Xiao's hands flashed with various incantation gestures. Under the effect of the formations in the chamber, the surrounding primordial qi turned corporeal like qi dragons as they poured into the sword. Finally, after he had fused a third-tier steel soul stone with the blade, he said, "It's done." Meanwhile, the sword fell from mid-air and stabbed into the floor with a clang. Zhang Qingfan and Su Han exchanged a look, their faces puzzled. After they confirmed he was really done, they walked up and pulled the sword out, studying it carefully. Unable to contain his doubt, Zhang Qingfan asked, "Young Master Yun, although this sword is extremely sharp and full of spirits, I have a feeling that it lacks something. Since you didn't use the sword-condensing incantation gesture, the refining is not complete yet, right?" Xiao smiled and said, "It is only a sword embryo for now. I wanted to refine a third-tier mystic weapon, but when I heard you say the Thousand Treasures trade fair is just a few days away, I changed my mind. I want to see if I can find some good things to refine it into a pseudo-fourth-tier mystic weapon." A sword embryo? Su Han was shocked. Wouldn't such intermittent refining damage the spirituality of the sword? Xiao lightly tapped the sword embryo with a finger as he chuckled and said, "Indeed, the refining needs to be done in one go if you are refining within the same tier. This is a third-tier sword embryo, and I will make it into a pseudo-fourth tier, which means it will increase by half a tier, so its spirituality will not be damaged." Zhang Qingfan said, "Young Master Yun, why don't you give us this sword embryo and let us refine it for you? Both of us are, after all, genuine fourth-tier alchemists. As long as young Master Yun can guide us, we will definitely refine a true fourth-tier mystic weapon that satisfies young Master Yun." Su Han, too, looked expectant. It was extremely difficult, if not impossible, for common people to ask both of them to refine something. But now they were offering help to Xiao because they would make new breakthroughs each time they got his advice. "There's no need. The mystic weapon refined by myself is more comfortable to use. Moreover, with my current strength, I can't fully utilize the power of a fourth-tier mystic weapon." Xiao's answer disappointed both masters, so he smiled and said, "But, when I refine it, I hope both of you can assist me. We can discuss it together." Hearing that, they agreed to it happily. Had it not been because of the Thousand Treasures trade fair, Xiao had no interest in visiting Yanwu at all. After having a long talk with Qin Yu in the Imperial Palace, he packed his things and was ready to leave for the city. Initially, he planned to bring only a few people with him and leave quietly. But on the day of setting out, he found that the whole capital was hung with lanterns and beautifully decorated, and people were packed the sides of the streets to see him off. Qin Yu even led all the courtiers to bid him farewell at the city gates. "Since you are not fond of the power and honor in the secular world, I'll give you a plenty, showering you with courtesies and favors." Looking at the chariot approaching from the distance, Qin Yu felt relaxed and relieved. Even if he gave the whole Tianshui to Xiao, the latter would not want it, let alone a mere city of Yanwu. On the day the army returned and he was made the crown prince, Qin Yu finally understood the gap between the secular power and those who pursued martial arts and alchemy. He could only be an emperor on the earth, but these people would soar over the clouds in the sky. Young Master Yun, I wish you a safe and smooth journey to Yanwu. Qin Yu proposed a toast and downed the wine in his cup. Yun Xiao patted him on the shoulder as he chuckled and said, I hope you will be a good emperor. Qin Yu laughed, then pointed at a row of state guardians behind him and said, I afraid that you do not have enough manpower in Yanwu, so I've ordered them to follow you. You can send them back when you no longer need them. The commander of the first unit of the state guardians, Yan, offers greetings, young Master Yun. A middle-aged man stepped out the rank and bowed. Yun Xiao glanced at him and found that he was a peak 9 stars great martial master. On the day Qin Yu was made the crown prince, Gao Feng was arrested and put in jail. Hence, Yan was promoted to replace him. Yun Xiao was about to reject when he heard Xiao Qingwang say, Bring him, he's a good lad. Because they needed to continue their treatment, Xiao Qingwang and Chen Dashing followed Yun Xiao, as Luo Yunshang was with him. Li Chunyang and Li Changfeng had nothing to do in the capital, so they were in the party as well. Of course, Yunshang's loyal fans, Chen Zhen and Han Bai, were among them as well. Almost all the high-end fighting forces of Tianshui were here. Looking at Bai Mao, who was standing behind Qin Yu, Xiao Qingwang smiled and said, Your Majesty, Bai Mao is one of the 2 most beautiful ladies in State Guardians. Since she has decided to follow you, please take good care of her. Although Bai Mao's face was veiled with a thin satin, everyone could see her face blush, which made her look even more charming. Qin Yu roared with laughter. I'll not disappoint you. With a hint of a smile in his eyes, Yun Xiao said meaningfully, Bai Mao's cultivation of divination arts has just reached the white tier, so remember to not use it at will. Otherwise, the backlash you suffer when you meet an expert will break all your meridians and even turn you into a cripple. If I remember correctly, the 5th elder of your sect is a cripple because she had performed divination on some expert. Bai Mao's face fell as her pupils turned blank and spiritless, and her eyes were filled with shock and terror. Yun Xiao knew she had performed divination on him. And not only that, he even guessed out her sect. And what horrified her the most was that he knew the secrets within her sect. The 5th elder rarely showed herself in the public. Although her status was high, it was said in private that she was a cripple who did not have any cultivation base. Bai Mao was just a little disciple in the sect. But she, too, had heard many rumors about the 5th elder. Some said she was amazingly gifted and was supposed to be the next sect leader, but her arrogance made her overreach herself and perform divination on someone she should not have, which turned her into what she was today. Bai Mao did not know about the details, but she did not expect Yun Xiao to mention it, and judging from his tone, he seemed to know the details of that incident. How did he know that? Who exactly was he? Bai Mao's mind was completely blank. Qin Yu's expression changed drastically as well. His eyes flashed with a nervous look as he said hurriedly, Young Master Yun, don't blame Bai Mao. I made her do it. I know you don't have to explain. Yun Xiao patted him on the shoulder as he smiled and said, If I were you, I would do the same. It's good that you understand my stance. There will be no conflict between us at all. In fact, after I've helped you ascend the throne, I believe our interaction will be rare in the future. Qin Yu heaved a sigh of relief in his heart, but he felt a little sad at the same time. As the monarch of a state, he actually envied Yun Xiao at this moment. No matter how high had he climbed, he would always be a dragon on the earth. But Yun Xiao would be a dragon who soared in the sky. I will always welcome you back, and you will always be Tianshui's King of Wuqing. King of Wuqing. King of Wuqing. Above and below the city gate, the courtiers and common people cheered. Yun Xiao chuckled as he waved, and in the envious eyes of all the courtiers, he left the capital with the others. Meng Bai was very excited along the way. He kept jumping back and forth on the chariot while cheering, Oh, my master is the city lord. My master is the city lord. Ha ha. To him, a supervisor in charge of a mine was already a very powerful official, and the city lord was an existence he had to look up to. Qian Zhan snorted coldly and mocked, Yun Xiao, Look what a promising disciple you found yourself. Yunxiao laughed. He's just a kid. And all kids' dreams are either to be a general or a state guardian. His skinny body was not much larger than Meng Bai's, so when he spoke like an old man, it startled everyone and made them look at each other. They were all surprised by the fact that a 15-year-old boy like him could look further and deeper than any of the old men present. Li Chunyang and Li Changfeng exchanged a look, both feeling happy in their hearts. They thought it must have been the guidance of the expert behind Yunxiao that made him such an amazing man. As for whether that expert was Gu Feiyang or his disciple, it did not matter anymore. As long as Yunxiao grew up under his guidance, they were content. Master, how did you know my dream was to be a general? After you take office as the city lord, make me a general. I'll bring an army back and show off in front of Uncle Li and others. Meng Bai's eyes lit up, and his childish words triggered a roar of laughter. Yunxiao smiled and said, I'll make you a general when you become a martial lord. When he had finished, his face flickered suddenly, and he squinted ahead. A martial lord? Meng Bai became discouraged instantly and said with a bitter look, If I had the strength of a martial lord, I would choose to be the commander of the state guardians and not some general. Xiao Qingwang's face flickered as well, because he had sensed some aura up ahead. He gave Yunxiao a surprised look and asked, Those boys? Yunxiao nodded slightly and did not say a word. Everyone was puzzled, and it was not until a moment later that they felt something, which put a surprised look on their faces. At the same time, they were amazed by the strength of his divine sense. A strong, fierce aura came blowing over from ahead of the chariot. There were soldiers standing orderly in rows in the state road, all armored and armed with silver spears, combat ready. Their high spirits and morale made them look like a steel pin that was inserted deep into the earth, unmovable and invincible. Li Chunyang's eyes lit up as he praised sincerely, If I were given 100,000 soldiers like them, I might be able to defeat all the empires on the heavenly martial continent. Chen Dashing gave him a glare. Keep dreaming then. An army of 2,000 soldiers like these is already a heaven-defying force. I wonder how they were trained. I dare say that if two armies were to face each other, even if the enemy army was composed of 2,000 great martial masters, they might not be able to defeat these soldiers here. The chariot stopped, and Yunxiao stepped out of it as he looked at the front with a cool face. A soldier swung down from a white horse and strode over, then dropped to one knee and said, Please bring us to Yanwu, King of Wuqing. We wish to serve by your side. Yunxiao laughed. By Changfeng, you all haven't graduated yet. Staying in the academy and continuing your cultivation is what you should do right now. I'm going to Yanwu only to attend the trade fair. Do you think I will really stay there as the city lord? Go back now, all of you. The 2,000 soldiers were none other than the student army of Jialan Academy. During their time with Yunxiao, not only did each of them make a fortune, but their cultivation base had also taken a leap. And under the guidance of the murderous air script, their actual fighting strength had soared as well. As a result, their admiration and respect for Yunxiao reached a very high level. The soldier was Bai Chengfeng. He was seriously wounded after the battle in the field outside the city of Yangpu, but he had almost completely recovered after recuperating for some time, and there were even signs that he was about to make a breakthrough. He was slightly taken aback, but then he said, It is still semester break now. We will go back to the academy when the new semester starts. His plan was to follow Yunxiao first and wait until the new semester started. Bai Chengfeng was voted by the 2,000 students as their leader to talk to Yunxiao, and now all 2,000 pairs of eyes were watching him from behind. If he failed to accomplish the mission, he would be too ashamed to go back to see them. Let them follow you. I see that they have made greater progress in following you than cultivating by themselves, said Luo Yunxiang while smiling. Even she had made greater progress in the process of constantly healing Xiao Qingwang and Chen Dashing with her pure yang energy. Bai Chengfeng was overjoyed, and without waiting for Yunxiao to reply, he quickly bowed and said, Thank you, Teacher Luo. Then, he turned around and roared, Brothers, young Master Yun has agreed. Oh, hooray! Hooray! I knew young Master Yun will agree. This is great. All 2,000 students cheered instantly, and the eyes of many female students shone with happiness. Among them, Luo Landuo sighed under her breath. Lin Yu, who was standing next to her, seemed to feel something. He grabbed her hand and gave it a gentle squeeze as he said, "He is strong now, but I will work hard and make him my target. Sooner or later, I will defeat him." Luo Landuo gave him a sweet smile, then lightly leaned her head against his arm. Looking at Xiao in the distance, she knew that their paths would probably never cross again. But at least everyone was running forward on a road leading to the peak of martial arts. "Just want and see, Li Yunxiao. I was wrong for looking down on you, but as long as I keep running forward, we will meet again on the road of martial arts." Luo Landuo held Lin Yu's hand tightly and pressed herself closer to him. With a wry smile, Yunxiao turned to Luo Yunshang and said, "I'm just going to a trade fair, not a war. Besides, I'm used to being alone, and I never wanted to be the city lord." Li Chunyang suddenly said, "Yunxiao, do you think these 2,000 students will still be the soldiers of the secular world if they continue to develop like this?" Yunxiao's face flickered. "Do you mean?" Chunyang is right. Xiao Qingwang understood at once. This force has gone far beyond the traditional soldiers. Although most of them are still warriors, I can sense that the murderous air in their bones will not be much different from that of the state guardians. Li Chunyang smiled and said, "Yunxiao, don't you want to be severed from all ties with the secular world? 2 heads are always better than 1. If you have this force and the rest of us to help you, you will soon be able to build a power that is beyond ordinary states. Yes, we have at least half the fighting strength of Tianshui here, and our potential is endless," said Chun dashing as his eyes lit up. "Why don't we take Yanwu as our foundation and develop our own power, eventually becoming an existence like the Jutian sect?" Jutian sect was the backer and the actual master behind the Firecrow Empire, and it was well known even in other places on the heavenly martial continent. Although everyone thought it was a somewhat ridiculous goal to develop into such an existence, they could at least take it as their target and achieve some result. In Yunxiao's eyes, Jutian sect was nothing, at most a mere 2nd or 3rd grade power on the heavenly martial continent. But he was slightly tempted by the idea of establishing his own power. In his previous life, although he was very strong, he was all alone and had no power to support him. Many a times he was outnumbered and seriously injured by various powers. If he had a strong power behind him, he would not have been in such a miserable situation so many times. Yes, he was ranked 3rd on the heaven and earth power chart, which seemed to make him the 3rd strongest man in the world. However, whenever those superpowers with tens of thousands of years of history attacked, they always sent dozens or even hundreds of people. In fact, had it not been because Chu Hongyan did not attack him with all the forces of her sect out of fear that Shenxiao Temple would not be able to afford the damage, he might not have been able to leave the Snowfall Peak. Looking at the cheering students, he fell into thoughts. They were all teenagers with high potential, and their talent could be said to be the best in Tianshui. Under his guidance, their future achievements would definitely be limitless, and it was possible that they would become a first-class power on the continent. "In that case, I'll bring them with me for the time being," Yunxiao said lightly. There was a glimmer of light flashing in his eyes as he looked into the distance, and he said in a voice only he could hear, "Since my title in the previous life was Vanquisher, I'll name you Dubhe." Yanwu was truly the most prosperous city in Tianshui, and with the 1,000 Treasures trade fair just around the corner, it was bustling with activities. All the main streets were cordoned off while the influx of foreign businessmen caused the inspection to become extremely strict. Inns had long been full, and now even residential houses had begun to accommodate outsiders. Yunxiao's arrival caused quite a commotion. The previous old city lord had long moved his family and belongings out of the official residence, waiting to return to the capital and spend his retirement there. The chief bookkeeper of the city, Wu Zisher, was about to report to Yunxiao when he was cut off rudely. "Just tell me how much money do I have now and how much are the annual incomes and expenses. I'm not interested in other things." Since he had decided to establish his own power, money was his priority now. Yunxiao, who had little idea of such a thing in his previous life, began to feel the pressure and great burden of keeping thousands of people. That gave Wu Zixia a pause. He had seen many money-minded city lords, but this was the first time he met one who talked about money so blatantly. Not daring to neglect his new superior, he hastily began to calculate. Unlike all the previous city lords, who left as soon as they were relieved of their offices, this city lord was the newly made king of Wuqing, and Yanwu was given to him as his permanent fief. The annual tax revenue is about 300 million gold coins. 150 million will be turned over to the state treasury, and the city expenditures will be close to 100 million, leaving about 50 million. But this time, because of the trade fair, thousands of merchants have entered the city in a short period of just a few days, and the tax they paid amounted to 120 million. At present, the balance in the treasury is 150 million gold coins. Since he handled all the projects in Yanwu, he was able to quickly provide a general picture of the city's financial status. Displeased, Yunxiao frowned and said, "Every year, there is a balance of 50 million gold coins. Excluding the tax revenue from the trade fair, how can there be only 30 million left? Where did the rest of the money go?" Wu Zixia felt his displeasure, and he said fearfully, "My lord, of the annual balance of 50 million gold coins, 30 million is spent on the courtiers in the capital, and some were taken by the former city lord, Yu Dihai, when he was relieved of the office." "Pa!" Yunxiao slapped a hand on the table and said angrily, "This is Yanwu's money, not Yu Dihai's personal treasury." Wu Zixia bowed his head and did not dare to say a word, but he murmured in his heart, "Is there any difference? When every former city lord leaves, they always take away all the money. This time, because Yu Dihai knew his successor is the king of Wuqing, he purposely left behind some 30 million gold coins, saying that they are his token of congratulations for king of Wuqing. I didn't expect this new city lord to be so young and ignorant of worldly affairs." "Dad!" Yunxiao cried out. "Bring a few men with you to the capital and take all the money back from Yu Dihai." "Will do." Li Changfeng laughed as he jumped to his feet and roared, "How could he take away all the money from my son's fief? I think he's tired of living." "Ah!" The chief bookkeeper was taken aback. "How can this king of Wuqing be so foolish? Who would send someone to take back the money that had been taken away? And who would cough back the money they had swallowed? My lord, this cannot be done," he said hastily. "Lord Yu Dihai's younger sister is His Majesty's consort, so he is considered an imperial uncle. Moreover, he and many first-grade courtiers are friends. And my lord, you ought to know that the money he gave them every year is not for nothing." "Oh, you reminded me in time." Yunxiao waved and said, "In addition to Yu Dihai, I want the courtiers who had taken money from Yanwu to spit out everything. Wu Zixia, give me the names of the last 10 city lords. I will ask my father to take the money back from them. If any of them is dead, their heirs will have to pay." "Ah!" Wu Zixia was petrified instantly. This is absurd. Does this king of Wuqing know nothing about the customs of officialdom? Doesn't he know he will offend all the courtiers by doing so? I think he will be a short-lived city lord. Ha ha! Li Changfeng laughed as he grabbed Dark Thunder by the ear and said, "Make this fella go with me. I promise the task will be completed flawlessly. All right, remember to collect the interest as well, which is calculated at 3 times the current common interest. Tell these people that if they don't pay back honestly, I'll go and collect the debts from them myself. Try to make them pay in primordial stones, because gold coins can't be eaten or used in cultivation. It is useless to have more." "Okay, I'll go now." Li Changfeng jumped up the back of Dark Thunder while laughing. "Wait till I get back." Dark Thunder's face was covered with distress and reluctance. However, at Yunxiao's order, it bowed its head and turning into a flash of lightning, running in the direction of the capital. Wu Zixia was startled by the demon beast's mighty aura and speed, and he was sweating all over. But he then smiled bitterly at the thought of the consequences of Li Changfeng's task. It seemed to him that the city lord would be replaced again soon. "I now officially appoint you as deputy city lord. You will be in charge of everything in the city, and you don't have to report anything to me except for money. When I want to be in charge, I will come to you. After saying that, Yun Xiao turned and left, leaving the completely petrified Wu Zixi behind, who stood there with a dazed and confused look. Did he just make me the deputy city lord? Yanwu was the richest city in Tianshui, and the appointment of even a low-ranking officer would stir the nerve of some powerful courtier in the capital. The office of deputy city lord had been fought by many officers for years, and the court had not decided who should fill it. King of Wuqing had just appointed me deputy city lord as if it is just a child's play? Wu Zixi's mind began to drift off a little, and he had a dreamy and unreal feeling. He stumbled back to his bed and threw himself at it, thinking that he must be still asleep and everything would be normal when he woke up. Without settling down, Yun Xiao left all the people behind and walked to the venue of the trade fair, taking only Meng Wu, Meng Bai, and Jia Rong with him. Of the three people, one was his disciple, one was his servant, and one was a pretty girl. Other people who came to the city with him were either his teacher or old men, with whom he had no interest in going shopping. When he saw the emblem of Myriad Treasure Store hanging on high, he was sure that it was the same organization he knew in his previous life. It seemed that it had penetrated far deeper and wider than he had expected. Myriad Treasure Store was said to be the richest organization in the heavenly martial continent, with its wealth more than even the alchemist associations. Moreover, it had recruited a large number of alchemists, as well as countless warriors of various tiers. So, even though it was wealthy, no one dared to covet it. "Let's go, master. What are you waiting for?" Meng Bai kept urging. Young people like him were fond of crowded places, and since he was born a poor child and had seen little of the world, he could no longer wait. Meng Wu was very excited as well. She purposely changed into a new dress, which made her look like a beautiful lily among all the other lesser flowers, attracting constant attention. Ever since she and Meng, by following Yun Xiao, Qin Yu had been extremely attentive to them, and had always gifted her all kinds of trending dresses, jewelry, and makeup. At first, they were a little uncomfortable with the special treatment, but then they accepted it. At the same time, they also understood that it was the benefit brought to them by Yun Xiao's status, so they began to attach more importance to their own strength. Now, both of them were 5 stars warriors, and Meng Bai had even reached the peak of 5 stars. Fortunately, Yun Xiao's performance was so amazing that no one paid attention to the two siblings. Otherwise, their jaws would have dropped in surprise. Yun Xiao smiled and led them in. The trade fair occupied several important streets in the city and was already packed with people. Men and women from the Firecrow Empire and other dependent states were all here, filling the air with noisy bargaining voices. Meng Wu and Meng Bai were dazzled. They had never seen so many things at once before. On the other hand, although Jia Rong had attended several thousand treasures trade fairs, he was still greatly interested and kept looking around for something he might need. Sounds of voices and commotion could be heard from everywhere. Many merchants were selling with temporary stalls, and more with simple square blankets laying on the ground. "Master! Master! There are many people here. Let's go inside and have a look." Meng Bai jumped and pointed to a shop. A few layers of people crowded outside, attracted by something the shop was selling. As he was not tall, Meng Bai squeezed through the crowd easily and was gone in an instant. There was a little old man with a pointed beard in the shop, who was smiling and explaining his goods to the crowd. On a square table in the doorway was placed a huge crystal vessel, inside which stood an egg as large as a baby, emitting a colorful light under the reflection of the crystal vessel. It was very beautiful. "A demon beast egg?" Jia Rong said in surprise. "This is an extremely rare thing, and it is not exaggerated to take it to an auction. I can't believe they just place it there so casually." Meng Wu looked at the egg with obsession, showing a look of wanting it. "What a beautiful egg! I wonder what kind of demon beast is inside." Yun Xiao could not help but laugh. "It's just an ordinary white demon beast egg, and the color is entirely from the crystal vessel. Look at the caption next to it. It is a second-grade, wind-breaking poisonous ferret." "Wait! A poisonous ferret?" Yun Xiao paused for a moment and muttered to himself. Although there's a weak life force in the egg, it is, after all, the egg of a poisonous ferret. If it is cooked and eaten by Meng Bai, it should bring him great benefit. Jia Rong smiled wryly. Young Master Yun, you don't really want to buy it and cook it, do you? He guessed that only Yunxiao could do such crazy things as eating a priceless demon beast egg. Yes, I do. Yunxiao gave him a little nod. Jia Rong immediately pushed through the crowd and led them into the shop. Next to the egg stood a jade board, which read, "The egg of a second-grade wind-breaking poisonous ferret. Growth cycle 5 years. The fighting strength of an adult wind-breaking poisonous ferret was comparable to that of a great martial master, which makes it the best companion for travel, killing, and robbing. Boss, we all know this demon beast egg is very precious. You so don't have to explain anymore. But the price of 10,000 medial-grade primordial stones is just too frightening. Can it be cheaper?" said a warrior with a bitter face. But the enthusiasm in his eyes did not grow weak at all. "Cheaper?" The little old man snorted and stared at the warrior in anger. "It is already the lowest price I can offer. Do you want me to sell you below my cost? If it weren't for my urgent need for money, do you think you could buy a second-grade demon beast egg with just 10,000 medial-grade primordial stones? Keep on dreaming." He paused for a while and sighed, then said, "To be honest, we are already selling this egg at a loss, so it can't be cheaper. In fact, our goal is to attract more people to our shop. Everyone, please come inside and have a look if there is anything else you need." No one in the crowd moved. Clearly, they had no interest in anything else, he said. Everyone just fixed their eyes at the egg. Even if they could not afford it, they could at least have a look at it. The warrior's face showed a look of reluctance. He exchanged glances with several men. Then they pushed out of the crowd and began to discuss in low voices. Other onlookers were also chatting as they watched the scene. Soon, the warrior pushed back into the shop again. He seemed to have made up his mind, and he said, "Boss, I'll buy this egg. But you must provide us a proof that it is indeed a second-grade wind-breaking poisonous ferret inside. We will lose a lot of money if it is not a poisonous ferret or simply a dead egg." The little old man pointed to several logos beside the egg and said, "Open your eyes and look at them. This is the logo of 7-day no-reason return guarantee issued by Myriad Treasure Store. And this is the logo of product quality assurance. We will be killed if we sell any fake goods." Myriad Treasure Store was famous for its iron rules. Anyone who dared to openly violate its rules would be punished, even if they were the imperial members of the Firecrow Empire. Therefore, no one dared to resort to deceit under its supervision. The warrior took out a storage bag from his ring and was prepared to throw it to the little old man. But at that moment, Jia Rong suddenly said, "This is indeed a genuine and living egg of a second-grade wind-breaking poisonous ferret, but its life force is getting weaker and weaker. I think it will probably become a dead egg within a month." The beaming little old man was about to take the bag when he saw the warrior's hand pause in the air, then abruptly retract with the bag. Holding the bag in his arms and carefully protecting it, the warrior glared at the seller and bellowed, "What? A dying egg?" There was a flicker of panic in the old man's eyes, and in the next instant, his face flashed with anger. He swept through the crowd and shouted, "Who goes there? Who's talking nonsense? Show yourself." All eyes fell on Jia Rong at the same time. He smiled coldly and took a few steps forward, looking at the egg in disdain. "I dare you to take this egg out of the crystal vessel in front of everyone. I'm sure its surface has begun to show green spots, which is the reason why you put it in a crystal vessel, so you can deceive everyone with the colorful light of the crystal." The old man's face turned slightly pale, because Jia Rong was absolutely right. His palms began to sweat, but he still growled, "Don't pretend to understand when you don't. Get out of here now and stop causing trouble and talking nonsense, or don't blame me for treating you badly." Humph. At the beginning, Jia Rong was not sure either. All he had said just now was what Yunxiao told him to say via a voice transmission. But, as soon as he saw the seller's expression, he knew that Yunxiao was completely right. With the flip of his hand, the badge of a second-tier alchemist appeared in his palm, and he said with a sneer, "I'm a second-tier alchemist. Do you question my strength and credibility? What? He is a second-tier alchemist. Wow, what a young second-tier alchemist. No wonder he is so professional and could tell that there is something wrong with the egg at a glance. Well, I told you a demon beast egg is hard to come by. So, how can anyone put it up for sale like this? Luckily, I didn't fall for it. Bah! You just don't have the money. I heard you say you want to sell your house and wife to buy the egg. The seller froze on the spot, and beads of cold sweat rolled down his forehead as he looked at the genuine second-tier alchemist badge. The warrior quickly put the bag of primordial stones back into his ring and shouted angrily, "You have a black heart. I almost trusted you and gave you the saving my brothers, and I had worked so hard over many years to accumulate." The loud voice startled the old man, who quickly said in a trembling voice, I didn't know this is a dying egg." When he saw the onlookers all pointing at him, he shooed the crowd away in panic and said, "Go away! Go away! I'm not selling it anymore." That put a contemptuous look on every face, but the crowd soon dispersed nonetheless. The warrior came over and expressed his thanks to Jiarong, who replied with a righteous face, "It's nothing. Exposing liars and upholding justice are the duties of a noble alchemist." "Master Jiarong, you're so amazing," Meng Bai said with a look of admiration. "Tell me quickly, how did you find out that it is a dying egg?" Jiarong's face lit up with pride and he snorted. "It's not a big deal." The seller was busy packing his things with his head down. It was his first day here, and yet his trick was already exposed. It seemed that he could no longer stay in this trade fair. And, since Jiarong was a second-tier alchemist, he did not dare to offend him, so he could only count himself unlucky. "Boss, do you still want to sell this egg?" The old man paused and looked up at Xianxia, then frowned and said, "You know it is a dying egg. Are you sure you want to buy it?" Xianxia chuckled. "Everyone has his own needs. It happens that I need such an egg." "Ah? You need such an egg?" The seller was startled, but then his face lit up instantly. "Haha! Since you want to buy it, I can sell it to you. Haha! Well, although it is a dying egg, at least it is still alive now. So, you have to pay me 5,000 medial-grade primordial stones." 5,000 medial grade? No, inferior grade. "What?" the seller cried. "Inferior grade? That's only 50 medial grade. You can't be so mean, can you?" "Mean? Then you can keep it and cook it yourself in a month." "Don't go. How about 1,000 medial grade? No? 500? 200? Hey, don't go. 100 medial grade primordial stones. Deal or no deal?" "Ugh, fine. I'll count myself unlucky. This is really a cutthroat price." It only took the seller a few seconds to consider. After all, in another month, he would have to eat the egg himself. And even if he did not sell it now and continued to use it to deceive people, those who could afford to buy a demon beast egg would probably kill him when they found that they were cheated. Xianxia readily handed over the payment and put the egg in his ring, then smiled at the others and said, "Let's go." Jiarong replied happily, "Yes, young Master Yun. Time to go now, Meng Bai." The four of them left together to visit other stalls, leaving the old man standing there with a blank face and wide eyes. "Fuck! They know each other," he screamed. "Haha! Young Master Yun, you are really mean, cutting the price from 10,000 to 100 in just the blink of an eye. TSK. TSK. That seller is really unlucky." "Well, it is mainly because the egg is really dying and not worth so much." "Ah? So Master was the one playing the trick? But why do you want to buy a dying egg?" "For you to eat." "Ugh." Xianxia took out the egg and shoved it into Meng Bai's ring as he said seriously, "Although this second-grade wind-breaking poisonous ferret is not strong in fighting strength, the toxin contained in its body is a real pain in the neck. It is still mild now, so cook it and eat it right away when you get back. It will be of great help to your strength." Meng Bai was dumbfounded, and he asked foolishly, "Eat it? For me to eat it? But how long will it take me to finish such a big egg?" "You must eat it all at once so that you can fully absorb it." Mengwu touched Meng Bai's head and said in a commanding voice, "Do whatever young Master Yun tells you to do. He is doing it for your own good." "Oh, if only I could have a good demon beast egg." one that can hatch into a cute little demon beast. Suddenly, Xiao stopped and looked at Meng Wu as he smiled. Then, as if by magic, he pulled out a larger demon beast egg and handed it to her. This egg is a real good thing. Try hatching it. Meng Wu was taken aback. This young Master Yun, where did you find it? What beast's egg is it? Xiao smiled and said, in short, it is a good thing. You will know when you go back and try hatching it. When the time comes, I will teach you the art of beast controlling. As long as you subdue the fella in the egg, you will have no fear of being hurt in the whole Firecrow Empire. The egg was found in Su Pinghong's ring. As a beast master, he naturally had many good things. Even Xiao was taken aback when he saw the egg, and he had kept it as a treasure. Wow, that's something. I want one too, master. Meng Bai's eyes lit up as he stared at the egg while drooling. Didn't I already give you one? You haven't had enough? Xiao glared at him and then said to Meng Wu, put it away quickly. Many people are watching. Meng Wu felt warm in her heart, and her face flushed slightly. She answered in a soft voice and put the egg away. It is very kind of him to give me something so valuable without even thinking twice. Hey, did you see that? That boy seemed to have taken out 2 demon beast eggs just now. I saw that too, and I thought I was hallucinating. Fuck. Who the hell is he? Why is he so rich? I don't know. But he really spent a lot of money to please that girl. Please my ass. There is not a girl worth 2 demon beast eggs. You can have all the girls in the world with just one. Oh, I agree with that. It seems like he really is a spendthrift. The voices of passers-by drifted into their ears. Meng Wu was so shy that even her neck had turned red. Her brother put a hand on her forehead and asked curiously, what's wrong with you, sis? Why is your forehead so hot? Do you have a fever? Bam! Meng Wu's eyes burned with rage as she threw Meng Bai to the ground, breaking a few pieces of bricks. Jia Rong said cautiously, young Master Yun, let's get going. There are too many people here, and we shouldn't have revealed something so valuable in public. I'm afraid that we've already been targeted by someone. Xiao smiled and said, it's all right. If someone really dares to provoke us, we will let him rest in peace here forever. They turned a deaf ear to the chatter around them and continued to look around at the trade fair. Before long, an item on a small stall caught Xiao's attention. Boss, what is the price of this fruit? Xiao pointed to a scarlet fruit placed on the blanket, his eyes shining with a strange look. Sitting on the other side of the stall was a stout man. After briefly scanning him with his divine sense, Xiao was surprised to find that he was a 1-star martial master. The man's eyes brightened as he considered for some moments, and then he said, 5,000 inferior grade primordial stones. 5,000 inferior grade primordial stones? Why don't you go and rob someone? Such a wild fruit can only quench thirst or be taken as an appetizer before or after a meal, but you are selling it for 5,000 inferior grade primordial stones. Meng Bai was the first to cry out. Although he did not know the fruit, he knew at a glance that it came from the mountains. The man paused and said angrily, you are only a child, so what do you know? This is a spirit fruit. I grew up in the mountains, and I've eaten more wild fruits than you have seen. A spirit fruit? My ass. Meng Bai said disdainfully. Master, don't be fooled by him. With a smile, Xiao looked at the man and asked, do you know this fruit? What's its name? The man shook his head and said, I don't know its name, but I'm sure it is a spirit fruit, because I saw a 3rd-tier greenscale python and a 3rd-tier blood-striped tiger fight each other for it with my own eyes, ending up in an internecine outcome. The reason I sell it for 5,000 inferior grade primordial stones is because I don't know the fruit. But I believe its actual value is much more than that. Xiao's eyelids twitched, and there was a glimmer of light flashing through his eyes. Exulted, he said, a blood-striped tiger? Since the 2 demon beasts had ended up in an internecine outcome, and you have also got the fruit, don't tell me that you let them go. The man's face fell instantly. He looked warily to the left and the right, then said in a low voice, what do you want? Xiao chuckled. Don't be nervous. The carcass of a third-tier demon beast is indeed a treasure, but it's nothing to me. How much for the blood-striped tiger's teeth and this fruit? I'll take them together. The man looked hesitant. He had not dared to tell anyone that he had obtained the carcasses of 2 third-tier demon beasts. After all, he was too weak, and such a precious treasure would get him into trouble. He had planned to secretly sell them in an auction during the trade fair, but he did not expect he would spill the beans. "Give me a price," Xianxia smiled. "You are too nervous. This is Thousand Treasures trade fair. No one dares to touch you. You know nothing." The big guy gave him a scornful look and said coldly, "Yes, no one dares to strike here. But do you know how many eyes and ears are hiding among the crowd? If they see that you are rich in wealth but weak in strength, humph, you will most probably have to rest in peace forever in Tianshui." Eyes and ears. Xianxia had also discovered many sharp gazes. Perhaps they were the so-called eyes and ears. The seller said in a low voice, "I can sell you the tiger's teeth, but I don't sell them separately. You need to take the whole tiger, 5,000 medial-grade primordial stones, non-negotiable. I will give you the wild fruit as a gift." Xianxia considered the offer, then said, "I need to examine the teeth for damage." 5,000 medial-grade primordial stones for a third-tier demon beast was neither expensive nor cheap. The most valuable things in a blood-striped tiger were its teeth and skin, and then blood. The rest of them were just ordinary materials. If the teeth and skin were damaged, its value would drop significantly. The teeth are in perfect condition, but there's some damage on the skin as the result of the fight with the python. "Deal." Xianxia took out a storage bag and handed it over. The man quickly inspected the contents of the bag with his divine sense while beaming, then took out another storage bag and threw it to Xianxia. After glancing at its contents, Xianxia nodded and picked up the fruit on the blanket as he took his leave. The man stared at the back of the 4 of them for a while before hastily packing his things and planning to move to another place. "Young Master Yun, it seems there are many eyes following us," Jia Rong whispered. "I guess they are attracted by the demon beast egg." Xianxia chuckled. "Ignore them. Their lives are in their own hands." Some time later, Meng Bai suddenly grabbed Yunxiao's arm as they were walking and cried out in alarm, "Look over there, Master! Aren't they Qin Zhen and Han Bai? It seems they are in a conflict with someone." A crowd was gathering in the street ahead. Qin Zhen and Han Bai were surrounded by a large group of men in front of a stall, and they all looked very agitated, as if they were going to fight each other. Yunxiao's face grew dark as he strode over and shouted, "What is going on? Young Master Yun!" The sight of him made both Qin Zhen and Han Bai happy, and they cried out hurriedly as if they had found a straw to clutch at. Qin Zhen pushed through the gathering crowd and rushed in front of Yunxiao as he said, "Young Master Yun, we found the 100 water, but these men suddenly appeared and said they wanted it. They are bullying us." Yunxiao understood at once. Where is the 100 water? It was the main material for the golden 6-sun pill, and Ji Meng was waiting for it with his life on the line. Yunxiao had to get it no matter what, even if it were seen by the group of men first. Han Bai pointed angrily at a man in the group and said, "He took it." With a cold grin, the middle-aged man said proudly, "Whoever gets it first gets it. Stop being annoying and get the hell out of here. If you point that finger of yours at me again, I'll cut them all off today." Yunxiao glanced at them. Clearly, this group of men was under some power. The leading man was just a 9-stars martial master, but among the guards around him was a martial lord and 2 great martial masters. The owner of the stall walked out in fear and said to the middle-aged man in a trembling voice, "See, sir, why you haven't paid?" The man's eyes turned cold as he bellowed while fuming, "What do you mean? Do you think I will not pay? Now get the fuck out of here." This. The owner looked worried. The 100 water was his most valuable item. "How much?" Yunxiao asked lightly. 200 medial-grade primordial stones," said the owner as he held out 2 fingers. Yunxiao took out 200 medial-grade primordial stones and handed them to him. "I'll buy it." "Thank you. But the goods?" The owner bowed gratefully, but he looked anxious and embarrassed. After all, the thing was not in his hand. It's all right. I'll get it myself. Xiao gave him a smile, then turned to look at the middle-aged man and said, "What did you say just now? You want to cut off my brother's fingers?" The middle-aged man narrowed his eyes and said with a hideous grin, "What? Not happy? Do you know our strength and background? If you are wise, kowtow a few times and get the hell out of here. Otherwise—" Xiao cut him off impatiently. "All right, I know what to do." As he said that, his right knee bent slightly, and then he kicked his right foot into the group, throwing himself forward like a bolt of lightning. When the crowd saw him again, he was already in front of the man, swinging out spring water. "He's so fast." Everyone was taken aback as the middle-aged man sucked in a cold breath, moving back a few steps in a hurry as he pointed at the ground and cried out in horror, "Blood, blood! Where did the blood come from? Ah, ah!" But he shrieked in the next instant, because he found that all the fingers on one of his palms were sliced off at their roots, leaving him with a fingerless palm. "How dare you hurt young master? You are dead meat." One of his guards, a great martial master, flew into a rage instantly. With his master hurt, he would have to face a serious consequence when he returned. So, he rushed over while fuming and pulled out a saber, thrusting it at Xiao's head. "No matter who this boy is, he's dead meat for hurting young master. If I can be the first to kill him, my punishment may be lighter." Suddenly he saw a flash of light and heard a faint whistle, and the next thing he saw was jets of blood that gushed out of his neck. Then he felt a great impact on his chest, which threw him flying backward and falling into the crowd. Looking at the people running away from him in panic, he felt his consciousness gradually fade away. "Ah! Murder!" The onlookers erupted into chaos, all shouting and fleeing from the scene, while the owners of nearby stalls hurriedly packed their things and moved far away, not daring to come any closer. "Anyone who wants to hurt my brothers must die." Xiao's eyes burst with a monstrous killing intent like a god of slaughter, and with the sword in hand, he emanated an aggressive aura like the strongest warrior that reigned supreme over the world. Many years ago, he had slaughtered everything within 8,000 miles in the East Sea to save his brother, turning the water red with blood as countless experts of the Sea Clan fell under his hands. Days ago, when Qin Ruxue was abducted right in front of him, it had already deeply provoked him, filling his heart with the feeling of powerlessness and remorse, which finally exploded out now. "Back off, all of you." He was a 3-star martial master, but Jia Rong and the others were just warriors, so they could not provide him any help. With loud cries, he threw himself at the guards coming at him. All of them were martial masters, but none could survive more than one strike from him. They were all killed with a cut in their necks. The scene of slaughter frightened the rest of the martial masters. They felt strength leave their legs, and they lost the courage to fight. "No one can save you now, boy." The martial lord standing next to the middle-aged man finally struck, throwing a palm out with a dark face. All the martial masters around were knocked flying away by the force of the palm, which condensed in mid-air into a huge green palm, enveloping the void around Xiao as it smashed down from above. "What are you waiting for, Commander Hong? Do you want me dead?" Xiao bellowed. "If I die here today, you will be flayed and executed as well." At that moment, a figure hiding somewhere nearby leaped into the air and flew over as fast as a bolt of lightning, falling lightly before Xiao and throwing out a palm as well. Two great forces collided, and in the next instant, the green palm was blown away. The man was Hong Bing, the commander of Yanwu's city guards, whom Xiao had met upon arriving in the city. Later, when he learned that Xiao and a few others were going to the trade fair alone, he secretly followed them for fear of danger, since there were too many complicated powers in the fair. But he did not expect to really have to strike. At the moment, he looked shocked, because he could not figure out how Xiao had discovered him. The counterforce pushed the martial lord back several steps. Clearly, Hong Bing was stronger than him. In a fit of rage, he growled, "Who are you? Do you know who my young master is? How dare you poke your nose into other people's business?" "I'm Hong Bing, the commander of Yanwu's city guards," he said in a cold voice. "I don't care who you are. This is Yanwu. and it is my duty to maintain the order of this place. Fine. That boy hurt my young master and killed my young master's guards. What would you do about it? Oh? Did he? I only saw you attacking him. If what you said is true, I'll ask my men to investigate. The martial lord flew into a rage. Look at all the dead bodies here. Do you think they killed themselves? With the help of his guards, the middle-aged man stopped his bleeding and pain. While flaring, he rushed over and bellowed, "Who do you think you are? You are just a mere commander. Even the Emperor of Tianshui will have to show me some respect when he sees me. Now go and get your city lord here. Do you know who I am? I'm Xianxia, the heir of the Xingyang family in the Firecrow Empire. I thought he is some mighty figure, but it turns out only to be a nobody. Hong Bing, keep that martial lord in check and let me kill them all first." As soon as he said that, Yun Xiao bolted out with his sword again, killing another martial master. Xianxia was so angry that he almost coughed out a mouthful of blood. He thought that by announcing his name and his family, his opponent would tremble with fear before kneeling and licking his shoes. Instead, it took away the guy's doubt and made him kill even more wantonly. That had dealt him a blow greater than when his fingers were cut away. In the face of Yun Xiao, martial masters were nothing but cannon fodder. Soon only a great martial master was left. With his pupils constricted, the guard drew his sword and unsealed it as he rushed over. Amidst the crowd of onlookers in the distance, a girl in red gently curled her hair with a finger as she frowned and said, "Sir Yu, is that the young man Master Yuan Hao was talking about? A third-tier alchemist? Li Yunxiao?" Standing next to her, an old man with a head of white hair and a youthful face smiled and said, "Yes, I've been following him ever since he stepped into the trade fair. He is a boy with a pair of sharp eyes. Luckily, I had hidden myself deep enough. Otherwise, he would have discovered me." The girl looked surprised. "How's that possible? Look, although he is only a 4-stars martial master, that 3-stars great martial master is already showing signs of losing. If I'm not wrong, he's only about 15. Isn't he? And yet, he's already such a genius in martial arts. How can he also be a third-tier alchemist?" There was a look of amazement in Yu Rong's eyes as well as he said, "Each age brings forth new geniuses on this noble land. You, for one, are a peerless genius, but I didn't expect this Li Yunxiao to be so inhuman." The girl gave him a sweet smile. "You're flattering me, Sir Yu. I'm not a genius. Do you think we should stop them? He'll be in trouble if he really kills Xianxia." Her words put a frown on Yu Rong's face, and he said worriedly, "The Xingyang family itself is nothing, but one of their ancestors is the elder of Jutian sect, and we cannot overlook that. I think I better stop them." He took a step and vanished instantly. "Stop it!" Yu Rong lightly pointed at Yun Xiao's sword with a walking stick, knocking it back. The great martial master, who thought he was about to die, trembled with fear and fell to his knees, staring gratefully at Yu Rong. "Be lenient wherever it is possible, lad. You don't have to be so ruthless. Besides, the Xingyang family is an existence you cannot afford to offend," Yu Rong said with a kind smile. Yun Xiao's eyes turned cold as he mocked. "Since I stepped into the trade fair, someone had been watching me, and now he has finally showed up. So, it is you, old man." "What?" Yu Rong was shocked, and his eyeballs almost dropped out. How could you possibly sense my presence?" he said in horror. He had thought he was well hidden, but it turned out that he was long under his target's observation. "Humph! Move aside. I'm not in the mood to talk to you now. I'll deal with you after I have killed these 2 men. He lifted his sword as he moved around Yu Rong and stabbed the blade toward the great martial master again. "Forget it, lad." Yu Rong's walking stick moved in a cunning pattern and tapped 3 times in a row on springwater, sending a great force down the blade that broke the skin in Yun Xiao's palm and knocked the sword out of his grip. A trace of anger flashed through Yun Xiao's eyes as he said, "A 7-stars martial king. Plum blossom spear technique." Yu Rong was shocked once again. How did you know my cultivation level? How did you know I'm using the plum blossom spear technique?" "Humph!" Yun Xiao snorted angrily. If you save this man today, you will be my enemy, and you will bring yourself a great disaster in the future. Yu Rong found that it was getting harder for him to see through this young man. He smiled wryly and said, I did this for your own good, Li Yunxiao. Although the Xingyang family is nothing, they have an ancestor who is the elder of Jutian sect. If you kill Xingyang Jie, you will bring yourself a great disaster. Meanwhile, Hong Bing and the martial lord had stopped fighting as well. With a venomous look on his face and holding his injured hand, Xingyang Jie said, So, your name is Li Yunxiao. I swear I will kill your whole family. Let's go. After saying that, he turned and left hurriedly with the martial lord and the great martial master. Yunxiao stared coldly at Yu Rong. You heard him. You asked me to be lenient and now he wants to kill me. Besides, he took away the herb that I urgently needed to save my friend's life. How am I going to save him now? He was boiling with rage, not only because he had failed to kill Xingyang Jie, but also because the 100 water was taken away from him. He gave Jia Rong a meaningful glance, who understood at once and immediately brought Meng Wu, Meng Bai, Chan Zhan, and Han Bai away, melting into the crowd. This? Yu Rong smiled wryly. Xingyang Jie has always been arrogant. He will naturally not let this matter rest easily after taking such a big hit from you today. Since only death can resolve our grudge, you have caused me harm by releasing him. Don't worry. I'll make you pay for what you've done today in the future. After saying that in a cold voice, Yunxiao turned to leave. Hold on. Yu Rong did not take his threatening remark to heart, and instead he chased up and said, A young lady I serve wishes to have a word with you. I'm not free. You. Don't be a fool who can't tell good from bad. Why? Are you going to force me? Don't think a 7 stars martial king is invincible. Yu Rong was a little angry. As a martial king, he was held in high respect wherever he went, and yet he was already mocked many times by this young man today. Had it not been because of a reason he could not speak now, he would have killed this ungrateful lad. Although 100 water is rare, I do have some. A sweet voice rang out, and then the girl in red walked slowly out of the crowd with a bright smile on her face. Don't be too impetuous, young man. It is really for your own good that Sir Yu stopped you from killing Xingyang Jie. Although there is still resentment between you, at least there is still room to talk it over. But if you had killed him, there would be no turning back. While frowning, Yunxiao sneered, Room to talk it over? What if he brings some other expert to kill me again? The girl in red chuckled and said, How about I take charge of the reconciliation? I believe I can manage it. Let me introduce myself. My name is Ding Linger. Yunxiao smiled and said faintly, Well, Ding Linger, it's up to you now. Turn and look behind you. Ding Linger and Yu Rong froze for a moment and turned back at the same time. They saw Xingyang Jie, who was fuming with rage, walking toward them with a group of men. His malevolent eyes were fixed on Yunxiao, and there was a ferocious look on his face. The crowd around them quickly dispersed in all directions, as if a storm were coming. No one dared to stay in the street, and everyone was watching from a distance. The leader's face was calm, with a hint of a smile on his lips. Judging from the aura of the people around him, he should also be the son of some super aristocratic family, and his status was even higher than Xingyang Jie's. When the man saw Ding Linger, the smile on his face turned into astonishment. I didn't expect to see you here, Miss Linger, he said in surprise. Ding Linger had a wry smile on her face. She had just promised that she would settle this for Yunxiao, and in the next moment, Xingyang Jie had come back. I didn't expect to see you here either, young Master Cheng Fish. I have witnessed this matter from the beginning to end, and I know there are many misunderstandings. I hope I can be a peacemaker for them. Oh, Cheng Fish gave a weird smile. He glanced at Yunxiao, then said thoughtfully, Who is this guy? To have Miss Linger intercede for him. Xingyang Jie's face flickered. Fearing that Cheng Fish would agree to her, he said hastily, Brother Fish, you mustn't be fooled by her. This Ding Linger is a merchant who sees only profits. She must have been paid handsomely by this boy to intercede for him. Humph. Paid. Yu Rong tapped the end of his walking stick against the ground, breaking several bricks. If I hadn't saved you just now, would you still be standing here? Have I been paid by you? He said angrily. Xianxia was ungrateful, as he said with a sneer. You saved me just to save him, because if I die, he will be doomed, even if he has a powerful background. Ha ha! Yun Xiao burst into laughter, then he said mockingly. What else do you have to say now, old man? Yu Rong's face turned livid with anger. Think of me as saving a dog. A trace of a sulky look crept up Ding Linger's face. The grace of saving one's life was greater than anything, but Xianxia did not appreciate it at all, which proved him to be a bad guy. Looking at Cheng Fish, she said, Young Master Fish, think of this as a favor you sell to me. Although I'm just a merchant, my company, Tianyuan Trading Company, is involved in many businesses with the four major families of the Firecrow Empire: Zhou, Wang, Mo, and Cheng. Moreover, we have a very wide network, and you can find our men in almost every corner of the heavenly martial continent. So, what do you think? Yun Xiao was slightly taken aback. So, they are from Tianyuan Trading Company. Tianyuan Trading Company was one of the members of the Commerce Alliance. Its influence was widespread, spanning the entire heavenly martial continent. The Commerce Alliance was formed by numerous trading companies of different sizes on the continent, including 7 permanent members and 13 ordinary members. Tianyuan Trading Company was one of the permanent members, while Myriad Treasure Store was not only a permanent member, but also the leader. These trading companies were originally business organizations scattered across the continent. Later, to avoid being bullied by others, 7 of the strongest companies and 13 smaller companies formed the Commerce Alliance under the call of Myriad Treasure Store. At present, the council had developed into one of the superpowers on the continent that no one dared to underestimate. Cheng Fish thought about it for a while and then said, Miss Linger, it's not that I don't want to sell you this favor. We came here together, and Brother Jie represents the face of all the aristocratic families in the Firecrow Empire. This guy not only killed Brother Jie's men, but also cut off his 5 fingers. This is a slap in the face of our families. I can't just forgive him like this. He looked up with a trace of cruelty in his eyes. But I have to give Miss Linger some face as well. As long as this guy kneels and kowtows 10 times, destroy his dantian, cuts off his hands, and kneels at the entrance of the trade fair until the end of the fair, I'll not kill him. What do you think? With a grateful look, Xianxia said excitedly, Brother Fish, you are such a compassionate person. This boy should count himself lucky to be punished so lightly. Ha ha! Yun Xiao burst out laughing. He could not remember when was the last time he had seen such a poser, because all those who dared to posture in front of him had died. As he laughed, his voice grew cold and his eyes were slowly filled with a murderous look. Ding Linger's nostrils flared, and she said, What's the difference between this and killing him? Cheng Fish shook his head and sighed. This guy doesn't seem to appreciate it. Miss Linger, you can't blame me for that. Please get out of the way, both of you, lest you accidentally get hurt later. No sooner had he spoken than the group of warriors behind him broke out and surrounded Yun Xiao. Yun Xiao did not pay attention to these martial masters, who could not pose a threat to him, but instead fixed his eyes at the 2 martial kings and 4 martial lords standing beside Cheng Fish. Although Cheng Fish was not the heir of his family, he was also a direct descendant. According to the customs of the aristocratic families in the Firecrow Empire, he could have 2 martial kings and 4 martial lords as his guards, and there was no limit to great martial masters and martial masters. Such an arrangement was unimaginable in other aristocratic families. For example, although Xianxia was the heir of his family, he had only 1 martial lord protecting him. It showed how powerful the 4 major families were in the Firecrow Empire. Ding Linger was trembling with rage. Cheng Fish, are you sure you won't even do me a little favor? Cheng Fish rubbed his nose lazily and said, I did, but you refused to accept it. If we leave like this, the dignity of the Firecrow Empire's aristocratic families will be hurt. The people of these small border states are becoming more and more unbridled now. I think it is time to discipline them. With a cold grin and a murderous air exuding from him, Yun Xiao said, Since you are worried that your dignity will be hurt, then I will trample on it right in front of everyone." He threw his right arm over his shoulder, causing a cloud-piercing arrow to shoot whistling up into the air and explode over the trade fair into 8 smaller arrows of different colors that shot out in 8 directions. For a moment, all the people in the city looked up in horror. "A cloud-piercing arrow?" Chung Fish showed a mocking look and said, "So, you are from Tianshui's military? No wonder you are so unbridled. But this is as far as you can go. Do you think you can defeat us by calling over tens of thousands of soldiers?" "Ha ha!" The warriors around him roared with laughter. They all had the same mocking look while staring at Yunxiao, as if he were an idiot. Even Ding Linger and Yu Rong frowned slightly. "This guy is such a fool. He wants to use the army against us. Ha! Those ordinary soldiers are so weak that I can kill tens of thousands of them alone, and I don't even need to rest. Humph! The people of these small states are indeed becoming more and more unbridled and brainless. Well, we can blow his head open later and see if it's full of shit or something. Ha ha!" They were laughing so hard that their faces looked ferocious. Bullying was their favorite because not only was it safe, but they could also get lucrative merits and benefits. So, each of them was extremely excited. Suddenly, the 2 warriors behind Chung Fish frowned slightly. A little shocked, they exchanged a look, then sent out their divine sense. In the next instant, their faces fell. Figures began to swarm over from all directions like bees returning to their hives. At first, they came in 1 or 2, but later in groups. As if suddenly emerging from the water, layers upon layers of warriors and martial masters surrounded the street, all looking down coldly. Meanwhile, plumes of dark purple murderous air emanated from their bodies, slowly drifting and gathering in the air, veiling the sky like a dark cloud. Soon, a terrible finger, scaled and armored, gradually appeared. Chung Fish and the group of warriors, who were in the center, turned pale as their eyes grew wide in terror. Although these people were only warriors, they came in great numbers, and their combined murderous air was so strong that it filled the hearts of Chung Fish and the warriors around him with a terrible feeling of powerlessness. Even the 2 martial kings were looking at each other in horror, and they felt their flesh creep when they looked at the dark purple finger in the sky. They had a feeling that if the finger were to fall, even both of them would be crushed under it. Although it did not make sense, it came from a warrior's most instinctive intuition. A young man, who was only a 5-stars martial master, walked out of the crowd, then fell to one knee before Yunxiao and said, "By Chung Feng offers greetings, young Master Yun." The members of Dubhe, a total of 2,330 warriors, are all here. Meanwhile, Jiarong, Chanzhan, and few others ran over from the distance while shouting, "Young Master Yun! Young Master Yun!" Several figures could be seen behind them, who lightly stepped forward and appeared next to Yunxiao in the next instant. There were a total of 5 of them, 2 martial kings, 2 martial lords, and a peak-level great martial master. They were none other than Xiao Qingwang, Luo Yunshang, Li Chunyang, Chan Dashing, and Yayan, who came as soon as they received Jiarong's message. Together with Hong Bing, who had been on the scene all the time, the number of martial kings on both sides was equal now. Yunxiao's side was 3 martial lords short, but Xiao Qingwang alone was enough to beat the other side, because he was a peak 8 stars martial king. And there were also a large number of state guardians pouring over, who were either martial masters or great martial masters. Soon there were thousands of them. In the blink of an eye, Chung Fish and his guards, some 30 of them, were completely surrounded from all sides. There was not a single sound that could be heard in the street. It was eerily quiet as everyone held their breath, especially Chung Fish and his men. Beads of sweat rolled off their foreheads, but they did not dare to even move, as if a careless mistake would immediately bring them a great storm, crushing them all to pieces. Yunxiao's eyes swept across those warriors. Then he lifted a hand as he pointed at one of them and said coldly, "Did you say you wanted to blow open my head?" No, I didn't. It was not me. I didn't say that." The warrior was so frightened that he pissed in his pants. While trembling, he stepped backward and cried, "Young master, save me, young master. Please, save me." It's been years since someone dared to say such arrogant things in front of me. Xiao made a grabbing gesture, pulling the warrior over with an invisible force. The man ran desperately in Cheng Fish's direction, swinging his arms as fast as he could, but he still flew backward helplessly. With a cold look on his face, Xiao jerked up his leg and struck the warrior on the back with his knee, breaking his bones and forcing a mouthful of blood out of his mouth. Then, he slowly lowered his leg, and the warrior fell to the ground with fear and pain in both eyes. "Save me, young master! Save me!" he kept mumbling. Bam! All of a sudden, Xiao stamped on his head, causing the warrior's skull to explode like a watermelon. Blood, bone fragments, and brains spilled everywhere, shocking everyone. The horrible sight brought nausea to many, and Ding Linger simply turned to the side and began to vomit. No one dared to say a word. Cheng Fish's face was livid, and his forehead was covered in cold sweats. He could not figure out why a young master of a small state was served by so many mighty men. Meanwhile, Xianxia's face was as pale as a sheet. Looking at the headless body under Xiao's foot, he shivered violently, as if he were trapped in an ice cellar. Xiao lifted his right hand high, and with a monstrous killing intent in his eyes, he said, "I've told you just now, since you are worried that your dignity will be hurt, I will trample it right in front of everyone." Then, he said in a slow but strong voice, "Kill them all and leave no survivors." Everyone on Cheng Fish's side was shocked. They could not believe what they had just heard. Although they were surrounded, they still wore the same proud and arrogant faces, and some even looked slightly angry. After all, they came from a noble aristocratic family of the empire. Even the emperor of a state would have to show them some respect. In the beginning, Cheng Fish thought that Xiao would surely humiliate him and make them leave dejectedly, and he had even planned how he would take revenge when he got back. But he did not expect that Xiao would order them all to be killed without saying another word or even looking at him. This is absurd. Doesn't he know who I am? Is he not afraid of bringing trouble to his family? Is he really a fool? Even as he was utterly stunned, a large number of warriors rushed over, and the dark purple murderous air fell like a blanket, spreading out across the street. The two martial kings were about to strike, but Xiao Qingwang's gaze immediately locked them in place. Both of them were just 1-star martial kings. They might be able to fight Li Chunyang, but they could hardly breathe under Xiao Qingwang's pressure of an 8-star martial king. He's crazy. He's really crazy. Cheng Fish only had this thought in his head as he screamed frantically, "I'm a direct descendant of the Cheng family. How dare you attack me? I want to see your city lord. Ask your city lord to come here right now." His voice was loud, but it rang hollow amid the crazy slaughter. Everyone's face was cold, and they looked at him as if he were just a clown. Ding Linger and Yurong had finally recovered from their shock. Looking at the men around Cheng Fish fall to the ground one after another, their foreheads began to sweat profusely. She hurriedly grabbed Xiao's arm and cried out in terror, "Stop! Stop it right now! Do you know what you are doing? He is a direct descendant of the Cheng family, one of the 4 major families of the Firecrow Empire. If you kill him, you will bring yourself and Tianshui a great disaster." Xiao sneered indifferently. "Cheng family? If they dare to provoke me, I don't mind wiping them out of the Firecrow Empire." "Ah!" Ding Linger froze to the spot. The words shook her so much that her head was buzzing, and she could hardly respond. Wipe out the Cheng family? Who does he think he is? A 6th-tier alchemy emperor or a martial emperor of the 7 constellations realm? Cheng Fish was in complete panic and despair as he watched almost all his men killed and the enemy warriors rushing at him aggressively. He fell to the ground while trembling in fear and kowtowed desperately. "I was wrong, Li Yunxiao. I was wrong. Please forgive me. Please spare my pathetic life." Xianxia, on the other hand, had all the blood drained from his face. When he saw his only martial lord get killed by Li Changfeng with the head crushed, then watched Cheng Fish kneel and beg for life, he was instantly scared out of his wits. Hurriedly, he fell to his knees behind Cheng Fish and began to kowtow repeatedly as well. Both of them had superior status, and they were normally the ones who controlled the life and death of others. Now, when the situation was reversed, they finally knew how frightening and excruciating it was to have their life and death controlled by others. Ding Linger was taken aback. She did not think these descendants of aristocratic families to be so spineless. With a despising look that could not be concealed on her face, she said to Yunxiao, "Let them go. The situation will still be manageable if you stop now." Yurong chimed in seriously, "Yes, stop now. Tianyuan Trading Company is willing to mediate for you, and I believe we can resolve this matter." "Shut your mouth," Yunxiao shouted as he showed a derisive look and sneered. "Do you really think you are somebody? Do you want more slaps in the face? You are just the Tianyuan Trading Company. Do you think you have a strong influence? I might pay a little attention to Myriad Treasure's store, but the rest of you are nothing in my eyes." Yurong flew into a rage, his neck flushed. However, when he saw all the murderous glances sweeping over at him from all directions, he choked back his fury. Ding Linger was angry as well, but it was true that she had gotten a slap in the face just now. Even a descendant of the Chung family had refused to sell her a favor, so how could she mediate and resolve the grudge between them? For a moment, she was at a loss, and a sad feeling washed over her. Is Tianyuan Trading Company really on the decline? Bam! A loud exploding noise rang out as the head of one of the martial kings beside Chung Fish was blown apart by Xiao Qingwang with a punch. His brains spilling everywhere. A martial king was killed with his head gone. It scared the wits out of the other martial king, which allowed Li Chunyang to shatter his heart with a palm and throw him flying away. In the blink of an eye, all the warriors were killed, leaving only Chung Fish and Xingyang Jie, who were still desperately kowtowing and begging for their lives. Their faces were covered in fear, tear, and snot, and their pants were already wet with pee, filling the air with a foul smell. Disgusting! Kill them now! Yunxiao covered his nose and turned to leave. A warrior rushed over and was about to kill them when a loud, furious roar rang out in the distance suddenly. "Who is so bold as to murder in my 1,000 treasures trade fair?" The voice was as strong as that of a huge copper bell, echoing from far to near and drowning all other sounds. And by the time the voice reached the scene, everyone could already see a figure in a gray robe flying over. A martial grandmaster! Yunxiao's face flickered, and he shouted hurriedly, "Kill them! Do it now!" The warrior, who was about to kill both men, was stunned by the loud cry and froze on the spot, but then Yunxiao's shout woke him. Hastily, he raised the sword in his hand and swung it down. "Humph! How dare you murder someone when I am already here?" The voice rang out again, and the gray figure got nearer. Suddenly, the warrior felt his body pressed down by an invisible force, which made him unable to move. In fact, he was not the only one. Everyone on the scene was startled as they were all locked in place by the gray-robed man's pressure. "It's Elder Een. We are in deep trouble this time." A trace of fear flashed in Ding Linger's eyes, and her heart sunk abruptly. The man was none other than the person in charge of this year's 1,000 Treasures Trade Fair, who was one of the guardian elders sent to station in the Firecrow Empire by Myriad Treasure's store, and also a martial grandmaster of the Six Directions realm, Yin Zhaoyang. It was a huge taboo to robe or murder at 1,000 Treasures Trade Fair, and the consequence would be more serious than offending the Chung family. After all, when one offended the Chung family, there was still room to talk over. But no one had dared to disobey 1,000 Treasures Trade Fair's rules over the last hundreds of years. And those who did were already dead. "I'm safe. I'm safe. Ha ha!" Chung Fish lurched to his feet and cried out excitedly, "Save me! Elder Een! Save me! I'm Chung Fish from the Chung family. Ha ha! I'm safe!" Suddenly, his voice stopped as a sword came poking out of his chest, piercing straight through his heart. Blood smeared the tip of the sword red, dripping to the ground. Chung Fish looked incredulously at the blade that came out of his chest, then turned and looked over his shoulder. He saw Xingyang Jie holding the hilt of the sword with both hands, staring at him with a cold look, with the color of his pupils turned evilly red. Plop! Even until the last moment of his life, Cheng Fish still could not believe and understand why Xianxia would want to kill him. After he fell to the ground, Xianxia pulled the sword out and used it to cut his own neck. Blood gushed out instantly as he, too, fell next to Cheng Fish. It was then that his pupils gradually returned normal. He looked confused at first, then it was replaced by shock and terror. He desperately covered his neck with both hands, trying to stop the bleeding, but it was all in vain. His pupils gradually dilated as his life left his body. The last scene he saw was Yunxiao's evil crescent-shaped pupils turn back to normal, with a hint of a cold smile brushing his lips. "I've told you that if you were worried that your dignity will be hurt, I will trample it right in front of everyone," Yunxiao said in a soft voice, but too bad they could not hear him anymore. When his voice drifted into Ding Linger's ears, she immediately felt a chill in her heart, and she trembled as she looked at the young man about her age in horror. Was he really just a 15-year-old teen with such a brutal approach and aggressive style? Unbridled, unbridled, unbridled. Yin Xiaoyang finally arrived. Landing in the middle of the crowd, he looked incredulously at all the dead bodies on the ground and roared wildly. "How dare you violate Thousand Treasures Trade Fair's rules? You are all going to die. Listen to me, Elder Yin. I can explain." Ding Linger hurried over. Since Cheng Fish and others had died, she was going to do her best to help Yunxiao out. "You don't have to say anything." Yin Xiaoyang's eyes burned with rage. Staring at Xiao Qingwang and others, he said coldly, "Anyone who violates Myriad Treasure Store's rules will be killed. Don't think that the law cannot be enforced when everyone is an offender. All of you will die today." His aura of a martial grandmaster spread out abruptly, freezing everyone present in an instant. Even the dark purple murderous air was washed away by the pressure. Xiao Qingwang's face fell as he struggled to move. A trace of bitterness filled his heart as he thought. So this is the power of a martial grandmaster? So strong. Li Chunyang and others were resisting with all their might as well. But it was useless, and that despaired them. They could die, but Yunxiao must stay alive. "You are Yin Xiaoyang?" Even as everyone was trembling with fear, thinking that a great disaster was imminent, Yunxiao asked with a calm face. "How is Yu Wenba?" Yin Xiaoyang's pupils constricted and his face flickered, but then he immediately showed a hideous grin. "Stop posturing in front of me, boy. Don't think you can escape death by knowing the name of our third elder." Yunxiao ignored that, but his lips moved slightly. Using a voice transmission, he said, "Since you are a martial grandmaster, you must have the secret artifact invented by Myriad Treasure Store with you, the long-distance fly sound. Do you?" Yin Xiaoyang's face fell, and he jerked up his head. He was slightly shocked when Yunxiao mentioned his third elder's name, because not many people knew that name even within the Myriad Treasure Store. But he was only shocked. However, when Yunxiao mentioned the long-distance fly sound, he was truly stunned. The long-distance fly sound was a mystic artifact secretly invented by Myriad Treasure Store that could be used to send voice over a long distance. It was made by inscribing spatial arrays with powerful techniques on an array disk and supplemented by 360 smaller arrays. When used, it could break the limitation of space and transmit voices to the other end designated by the array formations. The technique was heaven-defying, but the flaw was tremendous as well. The cost of making one was unimaginably high, and they would self-destruct after each use. Therefore, even within the Myriad Treasure Store, only martial grandmasters or above were eligible to equip them. Most importantly, it was a top secret within the Myriad Treasure Store. One had to become at least a martial grandmaster to know of its existence. His face grew serious now. Using voice transmission as well, he said, "Who are you? How did you know about the long-distance fly sound?" Yunxiao smiled and replied, "Please help me send a message to Yu Wenba. Just tell him that the old friend he met on the Purple Cloud Peak outside the city of Red Moon misses him very much." Yin Xiaoyang's face flickered. As he pondered over Yunxiao's words, he grew confused. Elder Yu Wenba's status was too high for him to communicate at will, and he would be seriously punished if he disturbed him for some trifling matter. not to mention the high cost of a long-distance fly sound. But the calm look on Yunxiao's face showed that he had nothing to fear. If he was really the descendant of Elder Yuan, Yin Zhaoyang would have committed a serious crime by killing him. He saw that Yunxiao was only 15 years old, and he thought he must be the descendant of Yuan Bo's old friend. Yin Zhaoyang hesitated, and his look confused the people around him. All they saw was both men's lips only move slightly, and then Yin Zhaoyang's face grew serious. There was a look of shock and doubt on Ding Linger's face. She was very curious about what Yunxiao had said to calm Yin Zhaoyang, whom even she could not stop. Although she was not strong, her status in the Council of Commerce was not below Yin Zhaoyang's after all. Yunxiao laughed when he saw the hesitant look on his face. "It will be fine," he told him. "Just send the message. If Yuan Bo blames you, you can rip me apart to vent your anger." Yin Zhaoyang's face was uncertain, but then he seemed to make up his mind. He took out an object from his ring and carefully placed it on the ground. It was an array disc fully carved with numerous runes, above which hovered a warm-colored jade medallion that gave off a gentle feeling. A trace of reluctance flashed in his eyes, and then he began to chant under his breath as he drew various symbols with both hands and sent a stream of divine sense into the jade medallion. The arrays on the disc were activated instantly, with traces of light drifting out of them. The void around the disc began to distort, as if it was being twisted and pulled. Ding Linger's pupils constricted as she watched in terror. At the same time, somewhere thousands of miles away, it was a place surrounded by water and rolling mountains that looked like a sleeping dragon, constantly exuding natural primordial qi. If someone looked at it from the sky, he would have a strong delusion as if the dragon was about to take flight and soar into the clouds. Amid the rolling mountains was a calm lake that looked like a huge jade embedded on the ground. Far in the distance, the lake spread out through a narrow gap between two mountain ranges, flowing somewhere unknown. The whole scenery was like the home of some immortals, especially when there was a small white tower floating in the middle of the lake. Its wall, white as the whitest jade, was carved with dragons and phoenixes, which emanated waves of faint colorful light that sprinkled on the water. Under such a magnificent environment, in front of a railing on one side of the tower, a middle-aged man dressed like a scholar sat on a white jade platform. His figure was graceful, and his white robe was dustless, which made him look like a dewdrop rolling on a vibrant green lotus leaf, agile and delicate, as if he could fly away in a gust of wind. The scholar's eyes were half closed, and streams of primordial qi were spreading out of him. Each word he said was like the most amazing dharma, and there was a group of men sitting on hassocks beneath him, listening attentively at his teaching. Suddenly, the scholar stopped. His pupils constricted slightly, and with a surprised look, he spread his right hand, revealing a golden long-distance fly sound that looked more advanced than Yin Zhaoyang's. The faces of those beneath him flickered. It must be a serious matter to send a message to Third Elder at this moment. Everyone grew nervous, and some were talking to one another in low voices, wondering what had happened. "It is a message sent to me by Yin Zhaoyang from the Firecrow Empire in the south," said the scholar, and his eyes gradually grew cold. Sensing the change in the scholar's aura, everyone became fearful and restless. The Firecrow Empire was just a small state in Heavenly Martial Continent, and no matter how serious the issue there was, even if the whole branch of Myriad Treasure Store was destroyed by someone, there was no need to make direct contact with the Third Elder. One of them was in charge of the affairs in all the states in the south. His expression changed instantly, replaced by an angry look. Yin Zhaoyang was his direct subordinate, and the fact that his subordinate bypassed him filled his eyes with killing intent. Yuan Bo casually grabbed the flickering green jade medallion, and a stream of divine sense instantly flowed into his head. "What?" Abruptly, his leisurely, graceful, and calm air was gone as he lurched to his feet and cried out, his eyes showing an incredulous and terrified look. Meanwhile, the primordial qi swirling around him dispersed under the emotional fluctuation and blew toward the boundless lake, sending ripples across the calm surface and boiling the water. "What happened, Third Elder?" The man in charge of the affairs in all the southern states, Xie Yuhang, could not help but ask in a state of trepidation. Yuan Bo had never made such a gaffe in public. Could something serious really have happened to the Firecrow Empire's branch? Yuan Bo held the jade medallion in his hand and his face was flickering. Rings of primordial chi spread out of him, showing the extreme restlessness of his mind. He performed a few quick incantation gestures and sent them into the medallion. In the next instant, a stream of divine sense was sent back through the medallion. After that, he seemed to be lost in some kind of memory, standing in front of the railing and staring blankly at the lake and the sky. None of the people behind him dared to say anything, but their eyes were full of doubts as they all looked at Xie Yuhang, who felt his flesh creep with all the glances. Ha ha! Ha ha! Just as everyone's mind was full of speculation, Yuan Bo suddenly threw his head back and laughed. His voice transformed into dragon roars that pierced the sky, shattering the whole surface of the lake and sending water up into the air. As everyone was behind him, nobody saw the 2 lines of tears trickling down his cheeks, but only heard him laugh and speak. I knew it! I know you are still alive. Meanwhile, Yin Zhaoyang, who was at the trade fair in Tianshui, was waiting anxiously. All of a sudden, the jade medallion in front of him flickered with a green light. He grabbed it hurriedly, and in the next instant, a stream of divine sense flew into his head. After sending out the divine sense, the jade medallion immediately lost all its luster and color, breaking apart and shattering into a heap of powder. Meanwhile, the array disc carved with hundreds of arrays cracked and turned into a useless item. Yin Zhaoyang's expression changed drastically after he received the divine sense. The way he looked at Yun Xiao suddenly became a little stiff and respectful, and he used a voice transmission to say, Third Elder makes me ask you what comes after lying in the depth of the night. I listen to the winds blowing in the rain. Yun Xiao laughed, his eyes seeming to be full of memories as he said, And ironclad horses o'er frozen rivers, as of old, invade my dreams again. Yin Zhaoyang sucked in a cold breath. He bowed in haste and fear and said respectfully, The guardian of myriad treasures store Firecrow branch, Yin Zhaoyang, offers greetings to young master. He stuttered because he did not know Yun Xiao's name, so he just called him young master. He did not use voice transmission this time, and his body language had said it all, which stunned all of the 2,000 people around and almost made them faint. A martial grandmaster was bowing to young Master Yun? All of them felt that their hearts were too weak to withstand such a visual impact, and their breathing became difficult. Ding Linger and Yu Rong were gaping at the scene as well, completely petrified. What were the 2 of them talking about just now? The people around felt they were being driven crazy by their curiosity. If it could be revealed, Ding Linger was even willing to buy it with all her wealth. Yun Xiao chuckled and said, You may rise. Just calling me young Master Yun will do. What did Yuan Bo say? Beads of cold sweat oozed out of Yin Zhaoyang's forehead as he answered gingerly. Third Elder said, If he can't answer it, kill him and feed him to the dogs. But, if he answered correctly, treat him the same way you treat me. Ha ha! Yun Xiao burst out laughing. He did not use voice transmission this time, but said openly, You can go back now, everyone. It is a misunderstanding. He's one of us. One of us. Xiao Qingwang, Li Chunyang, and the others looked at each other, their faces covered in cold sweat. Luo Yunshang, on the other hand, was extremely excited, and she thought, It must be! He must have revealed the information about that man. Otherwise, how is it possible that a martial grandmaster suddenly bows his head in submission? Lord Gu Feiyang, when can I see you again? Go back now, all of you. At Chun Dashing's order, the 2,000 members of the Dubhe dispersed into all directions. Yan waved a hand as well, sending the first unit of the state guardians away. Yun Xiao pointed at the dead bodies on the ground and said, I'm sorry for the trouble, Elder Yin. Not only have I violated Myriad Treasure Store's rules, but I have also brought you endless trouble. I really don't know how to explain it to you. Yin Zhaoyang understood what he meant. The direct descendants of the Cheng family and Xingyang family were murdered in Thousand Treasures Trade Fair, and it was very difficult for the Myriad Treasure Store to escape the responsibility. It was indeed a headache. But, When he thought of Yuan Bo's message, his heart calmed down instantly. No matter how serious this would turn into, he had someone shielding him from above. He put on a serious face and said, "Explain? Aren't these bodies an explanation? Since they dared to rob others by tricking and forcing at the Thousand Treasures trade fair, they had violated Myriad Treasure Store's rules. And this is the consequence they have to face." Ding Linger and Yu Rong almost fainted. They could not believe Myriad Treasure Store, who was said to have iron rules, would evade responsibility and lie in public. Their hearts were filled with extreme shock. They knew that there was room for discussion in everything, and the so-called iron rules only applied to common people. Even iron could be broken with a punch in the face of a mighty force, and many a times, iron could be even melted into liquid form. Both Ding Linger and Yu Rong thought of that at the same time, and there was a look of horror in their eyes and a great wave within them. For hundreds of years, Myriad Treasure Store had never broken its own rules in the Firecrow Empire, and it had never given anyone favor, not even the backer of the Firecrow Empire, Jutian sect. What did that mean? It meant Yun Xiao had the power to melt Myriad Treasure Store's iron rules into liquid. Yin Zhaoyang clapped his hands, and in the next instant, dozens of warriors clustered over. Then, he pointed at the dead bodies on the ground and said coldly, "Xingyang Jie of Xingyang family and Cheng Fish of Cheng family had violated the rules, and they have atoned for their crimes with death. Tidy up their bodies and send them back to the Firecrow Empire. As for the rest, drag them outside the city and burn them." "Understood." The warriors answered in unison and began to collect the bodies. With a big smile on his face, Yin Zhaoyang turned to Yun Xiao and asked, "Do you have any other orders for me, young Master Yun?" Xiao Qingwang, Li Chunyang, and the others who stood nearby could not bear to watch anymore, so they turned their eyes away. A martial grandmaster, whom they held in high esteem, was talking and behaving in such a humble manner. No one would have believed that he was a martial grandmaster had he not frozen more than 2,000 people just now with only his aura. Yun Xiao laughed. "No, thanks for asking, Elder Yin. If I need any help, I'll come to you. Just don't reject me when the time comes." "No, I won't." Yin Zhaoyang quickly waved his hand and shook his head. He thought for a moment, then took out a gold card from his ring and handed it to Yun Xiao. "Young Master Yun, this is the honored guest gold card of the Commerce Alliance. With it, you can purchase goods at a 30% discount from any members of the Alliance. In fact, you should use a higher level card, but as the guardian elder of a small branch, I can only issue gold cards." Yun Xiao's eyes lit up, and he took the card with a smile and put it away. "This is a good thing, thank you." Yin Zhaoyang felt happy when he saw the other putting it away. "I finally did him a small favor. There are few people on the heavenly martial continent that Third Elder takes so seriously. Although this lad is young now, he will certainly be a figure soaring in the clouds in the future. It is only right for me to curry favor with him now, because when he becomes a dragon, he won't even look me in the eye." Suddenly, Yun Xiao thought of something. "Does Myriad Treasure Store have pure sacred crystal and dark sulfur mist?" Yin Zhaoyang smiled and said, "Anything that exists in the world, Myriad Treasure Store has it. Even if the Firecrow branch is temporarily out of stock, we can transfer them from other branches. I'm only responsible for the security work, so I'm not very clear about the inventory of goods. I'll get someone to find out now." He was about to ask his men to find out when Ding Linger strode over and said, "Young Master Yun, both pure sacred crystal and dark sulfur mist are available in my company. I'll have them sent to you now." Yin Zhaoyang's face flickered. He gave her an angry look, furious that she had robbed him of his chance to curry favor with Yun Xiao. "Young Master Yun at Myriad Treasure Store, the quality of the same item is always better than that of any other company. I will order my men to look for them now," he said hurriedly. Ding Linger quickly said, "I've just informed my people, and they are on their way here with the things now." "You!" Yin Zhaoyang flushed with anger. He was trying every means to make friends with this promising lad. But Ding Linger just would not stop interfering with him. It made his nostrils flare. If it were not for the fact that Yun Xiao was still here, he might have grabbed her and thrown her away. "Well, I appreciate Elder Yin's effort, but I will take Miss Linger's. Of course, Yun Xiao knew Yin Zhaoyang's intention, so he just gave him an apologetic smile. Ding Linger's face beamed with joy, but she was smiling wryly on the inside. She came to Yun Xiao because she wanted him to help her with something. She thought that with Tianyuan Trading Company's reputation and strength, it would be easy to cow him, and the key lay in whether he was worth her effort. But now, it seemed that it was not the case at all, because even the guardian elder of Myriad Treasure Store had to flatter him. She suddenly lost her confidence, and did not know what to do. Fortunately, she hit the right note and won Yun Xiao's favor for the time being. Li Chunyang and the others stood by silently, not knowing what to say anymore. They had mobilized the whole state and even searched the whole Tianshui several times, but they could not find what Yun Xiao wanted. And now, there were two famous trading companies fighting each other to bring him the things, and even showing displeasure after being rejected by him. All they wanted to know now was what Yun Xiao had told Yin Zhaoyang. They were ready to interrogate him as soon as they got back. Oh, right. Yin Zhaoyang suddenly took out a small golden jade medallion and handed it to Yun Xiao. Young Master Yun, this is an honored medallion for the auction to be held the day after tomorrow. Please come and join us. The list of items to be auctioned is still being added, and I will have it sent to you as soon as it is finalized. After saying that, he gave Ding Linger a hard look and then smiled triumphantly. The look on his face simply said, "You can't possibly have this, can you?" Yun Xiao felt a bit uncomfortable. He did not expect that his brief contact with Yuan Bo would cause such a big reaction. After thanking them, he was no longer in the mood to shop further, so he left with the others. Ding Linger and Yu Rong followed him at a distance, which made him laugh in his heart. He turned and waved at them, then took them both back to his residence. Li Chunyang and the others wanted to interrogate Yun Xiao, but the presence of outsiders made them give up the idea. Dejected, they all went back to their own rooms to meditate. Meanwhile, Yun Xiao brought Ding Linger and Yu Rong to the meeting hall. "Just say what you have to say. I am very busy." Ding Linger summoned up her courage and said nervously, "Tanyuan Trading Company is facing a crisis and we need your help. I promise the remuneration will be satisfactory." In the beginning, she had come with a lofty attitude, wanting to see if Yun Xiao was worth her effort. But now, she only had a pleading look on her face, and she was nervous, fearing that he would refuse her. She also did not dare to say too much about the remuneration, because as long as Yun Xiao agreed to help, she would pay anything that he wanted. Yun Xiao looked up and thought for a moment. Is this year the time for the 2 tournaments of the Commerce Alliance? Ding Linger's eyes flashed with surprise. Then she smiled wryly and said, "Young Master Yun, you are really someone special. I can't believe you know about the 2 tournaments, even though you live in such a remote place like Tianshui. In that case, you should also know about the crisis my company is facing now." Yun Xiao leaned his forehead against his index finger and thought for a moment, and then said, "How can I help you when I am not from Tianyuan Trading Company? It's only a small problem. When the time comes, I'll give you an identity. We still have about half a year, and this year's venue is in the city of Songyuyang." Songyuyang? Yun Xiao arched an eyebrow and said, "Fine, I will help you, but you have to pay me in advance. I can't wait for half a year." "Pay you in advance?" Yu Rong complained. "How do we know if you will honor your words? Or, will you still be alive when the time comes?" Yun Xiao laughed. "Mr. Yu, you must be thinking that I will soon die because I've offended Xingyang family and Cheng family, right?" His face suddenly blackened as he waved a hand and said coldly, "You can leave now." Ding Linger gave Yu Rong a reproachful glare, then quickly smiled at Yun Xiao and said, "Young Master Yun, don't listen to Sir Yu's nonsense. Even Myriad Treasure Store has to act in accordance with your will, so I don't think Xingyang family and Cheng family can cause you any harm. However, I wonder what the remuneration you want is." Yun Xiao thought for a moment and said, "I want 50 hover chariots." "What?" Yu Rong almost bit his tongue. In a fit of rage, he jumped up and said, "Do you think hover chariots are made of wood? 50 hover chariots. Even the lowest class hover chariot is a 4th-tier alchemy product. Do you know how much 50 hover chariots would cost?" Yun Xiao looked at him coldly. Do I need you to tell me how much they cost? If you can't afford it, get the hell out of here. Remember, it is you who asked me to help you, not the other way. I don't like the way you talk, so my remuneration has increased now. You must pay me at least 100 hover chariots, or you can leave now. Come back to me when you've made up your mind. I'm very busy. With his face cold, Xianxia stood up and turned to leave. You Rong flew into a rage. He was a mighty martial king, and yet Xianxia did not show him even a little bit of respect. He could not suffer such humiliation anymore. His aura exploded out, and he was about to strike when an even stronger killing intent suddenly blocked his aura, then poured over and targeted him. A peak 8 stars martial king. Yurong was shocked. Only then did he remember that there was indeed such an expert among Xiao's followers, and he froze in place with an embarrassed look on his face. Looking at the departing Xiao, Dinglinger gritted her teeth as she rushed over and said, "Young Master Yun, if you can guarantee that you will win in the 2 tournaments, I'll give you 50 hover chariots." Xiao stopped, then turned his head and said coldly, "You know why I want hover chariots, but without them, I still have other ways. I can promise to get the first place for you in both tournaments and make Tianyuan Trading Company a permanent member of the Commerce Alliance, but I want 100 hover chariots now, and not 50. Shocked, Dinglinger's eyes grew wide in an instant, and she cried out, "First place in both tournaments? Are you serious? Do you have the confidence?" Xiao snorted coldly and said in a disdainful voice, "In 6 months, my martial arts will at least step into the 4 quadrants realm, and my alchemy will at least reach the peak of the 4th tier. In the whole Commerce Alliance, will there be 7 young guys who can surpass me?" The so-called 2 tournaments referred to the martial arts and alchemy tournaments. They were used to examine the potential of the members of the Commerce Alliance, and the result would determine the distribution of power. It was the rule laid down from the very beginning of the Alliance's establishment. Every time after the 2 tournaments, at least 1 or 2 permanent members would be replaced, along with even more ordinary members. Originally, the Commerce Alliance was only focused on doing business. But in the recent years, with its continuous growth, it had become one of the superpowers on the continent. Therefore, it also began to develop toward the direction of power, and the assessment of its members also changed into martial arts and alchemy. All participants of the 2 tournaments must be members of the trading companies they represented, and not over 30 years old, so they could better portray the potential of the companies. In recent years, Tianyuan Trading Company's strength had been ranked in the bottom 3 of the 20 ordinary members, becoming one of the targets that other rising companies wanted to pull down. So, Dinglinger's father, Ding Shan, the president of the company, was trying every means to attract young talents everywhere. Dinglinger said in shock, "If you really can reach this level within 6 months, then we indeed have a good chance of becoming a permanent member. But young Master Yun, how can you guarantee that?" Xiao smiled. "If I can't make you become one of the permanent members, I will pay you back 10 times the remuneration I asked today in the future." With his potential, when he became a martial lord, he could at least compete with a martial king. As for his alchemy, few young people under the age of 30 could surpass him. "Fine." There was a trace of madness in Dinglinger's eyes. Her body shivered uncontrollably as she said in excitement, "It's a deal. But my company cannot come out with 100 hover chariots in such a short time. Even if I need to purchase them, I will need some time." Xiao pondered for a moment, then shook his head and said, "I don't have time for you to purchase them. How many do you have now?" Dinglinger calculated in her mind. "We have about 30 right now, and 3 5th-tier Tiger King hover chariots." "Oh!" Xiao's eyes lit up. A 4th-tier hover chariot was called Blue Wolf, and a 5th-tier one was called Tiger King. Exalted, he said, "Give me all the Tiger Kings, they will make up for 30 Blue Wolves. As for the rest, you can pay me in 4th-tier herbs or mystic weapons." After considering for a while, Dinglinger agreed. The cost of 100 4th-tier alchemy products was indeed an astronomical figure, and even a state might not be wealthy enough to pay. But, for the sake of Tianyuan Trading Company's current crisis, no matter how expensive it was, it had to pay. ignoring the unimaginably great power and convenience enjoyed by an ordinary member of the alliance. If it fell from the seat of an ordinary member, the rest of the companies would definitely take the opportunity to carve up its business. In fact, the companies who had lost their ordinary member status in the past were all devoured by other companies within a few years, completely vanishing from the continent. So, Tianyuan Trading Company had come to the moment of life and death. There was no other way out, and Ding Linger had to gamble. I've made a serious mistake that cost the company to pay double. After leaving the City Lord Mansion, Yu Rong was extremely depressed. When he thought that the company was forced to pay twice as much because of him, he was filled with grief and anger. "It's all right," said Ding Linger with a gentle smile. "If the company can survive this crisis, the price is small enough to ignore. Otherwise, we would lose these things anyway. In fact, it is better that we can give him more so that he owes us greater favor and, at the same time, we can help him grow faster. In the end, it will all come back to us." Yu Rong was overwhelmed with gratitude. To him, the way she justified his serious mistake with that was a kindness he could never repay. In a fit of guilt, he said, "But, don't you think it is too much of a joke for that Li Yunxiao to say that he will become a martial lord and a fourth-tier alchemist in 6 months? I think he is too pompous to be trusted." There was a flicker of confusion in Ding Linger's eyes. "But sir, you personally investigated Li Yunxiao's information, and it was you who told me that he had gone from a good-for-nothing to a 4-stars martial master and a third-tier alchemist in a few months. If he continues to grow at this rate, he will soon become a martial lord and a 4th-tier alchemist, right?" Yu Rong paused, and beads of cold sweat began to ooze out of his forehead. "But," he said hastily, "even though that is the result of my investigation, it is too absurd for even me to believe." Ding Linger fell silent. Suddenly, she smiled and said, "It doesn't matter if he can't reach that level. Among all the young people below the age of 30 in the Alliance, only a few have reached the level of a 3rd-tier alchemist. As long as he can gain a strong foothold in the alchemy tournament, I'll be satisfied. As for the martial arts tournament," her eyes flashed, and a confident look crept up her face. "We still have 6 months. And it is more than enough for me to break through into the 5 elements realm and become a martial king." Right after Ding Linger and Yu Rong left, Xiao Qingwang walked into the hall. His eyes were filled with shock as he said incredulously, "Just like that, we've gotten ourselves 104th-tier alchemy products? Am I dreaming, young Master Yun?" "Now is not the time for dreaming," said Yun Xiao in a cold voice. "It seems Tianyuan Trading Company is indeed at the edge of a cliff. Otherwise, they would not have agreed so briskly. But, if the situation hadn't forced me to, I would never have agreed to this price." Xiao Qingwang's face grew grave, and he said worriedly, "Are you referring to the Xingyang and Cheng families? We have killed their descendants, and they will definitely not let this matter rest, given how proud and arrogant they are. We need to be prepared for battles." Although Xingyang family was also an aristocratic family in Firecrow, Yanwu should have no problem resisting them with the help of him and the others. But Cheng family, with its thousands of years of history, had reserves that were too deep to be fathomed, and they might not be able to resist it even with the strength of the whole Tianshui. This was what worried him the most. "Don't worry, I have my own plans." There was a look of absolute confidence in Yun Xiao's eyes. Xiao Qingwang had no idea where his confidence came from, so he could only sigh, "I hope so. In any case, just call me when you need my help. It's a pity that my injury has not been cured fully, which has stopped me from progressing further. In the future, my help to you may be very limited." "You don't have to belittle yourself," Yun Xiao laughed. "Within a month, I will not only completely cure your cold poison, but also make you break through the 6 directions realm and become a martial grandmaster." "What?" Xiao Qingwang stared at Yun Xiao in shock. Although the latter often uttered startling words, he knew his condition best. But every time he said something startling, he did it in the end. Yun Xiao gave him a mysterious look as he laughed and said, "You will know when the time comes." Xiao Qingwang shook his head with a wry smile and left without believing it. But there was an immense anticipation inside him. Yun Xiao smiled, and then his face grew calm. He took out a jade medallion and sent a stream of divine sense into it, calling his grandfather over. Send this jade medallion back to the capital and give it to Zhang Qingfan as soon as possible. Knowing what was at stake, Li Chunyang dared not slack off and set off for the capital at once. After that, Yun Xiao asked Jia Rong to accompany him out of the city lord mansion and walked around the city. His most important task at present was to know the condition of the city. Initially, he had intended to be an idle city lord who was only in charge of money, but he did not expect that he would have to take over everything so soon. What's that place? Standing at the top of the tallest building in the city and pointing to a stretch of green hills dozens of miles away outside the city, Yun Xiao asked Wu Zixia, who was beside him. After waking up from sleep, Wu Zixia realized that he was not dreaming. He was overjoyed, and just as he was about to share the good news with his family, Yun Xiao came to him and took him out to the highest place in the city. He glanced in that direction and replied respectfully, "My lord, the highest mountain there is called Mount Qiyun, and the whole mountain range is also called Qiyun Mountains. It is said that there are many demon beasts living in it. The average hunters and herb gatherers would venture only to the outskirts of the mountains." Demon beasts? Yun Xiao frowned and asked, "Do you know if there are aristocratic families or sects in these mountains?" Wu Zixia paused a moment. He was just an ordinary man, and his first reaction to the question was, who except hunters would want to live in the mountains? But he soon realized that Yun Xiao was referring to those existences with mighty power. He shook his head and said, "I don't know, but I often hear stories of people running into immortals in the mountains." Yun Xiao nodded slightly and said to himself, although the spirit qi of this mountain is not as good as that of those famous rivers and mountains, it is already considered very good in Tianshui. Since there are demon beasts in it, there are probably aristocratic families or sects as well. Judging from the concentration of the spirit qi, they should not be any powerful figures. Well, I'll borrow their spirit qi for the time being. Borrowing spirit qi? Jia Rong, who was standing behind him, asked curiously, "Young Master Yun, how do you borrow spirit qi? Do you need to return it?" Yun Xiao laughed. "Bring 2,000 members of the Dubhe and set up these 3 arrays under the city as fast as you can." He threw 3 array diagrams to Jia Rong. With an excited look on his face, Jia Rong took the diagrams and glanced through them. Although Yun Xiao made him do all the laborious work every time, he always gained tremendous benefits afterward. The 9 Dragons Energy Absorbing Array, the Universe Sky City Treasure Array, the Great Sun and Golden Light Sword Array. What are these arrays? I've never heard of them. Jia Rong felt a little dumbfounded. Looking at the complicated layout of the drawings, his first reaction was dizziness. Yun Xiao explained, "The 9 Dragons Energy Absorbing Array can bring spirit qi from all directions into the city. I've studied the surroundings just now. There is no spirit mountain or treasure land here, and this Mount Qiyun is the only place with some spirit qi, so I've slightly modified the array. When it is activated, it will focus on absorbing the spirit qi of the mountain. As for the other 2 arrays, they are guardian arrays for sects. One is offensive and the other is defensive. I have also greatly simplified them." Guardian arrays. Jia Rong was shocked. A guardian array was something that only those super strong aristocratic families and sects with at least thousands of years of history could have. In Firecrow Empire, it was likely that only Jutian sect had similar things. He could not believe Yun Xiao just gave him 2. I am only a mere second-tier alchemist. Do I have the ability to set them up?" Jia Rong began to feel nervous, fearing that he would screw things up. Each of the 2 arrays, in its full version, has 3,600 restrictive spells and 108 variations. If a martial supreme is caught in it, he too will die. Looking at Jia Rong, whose jaws almost dropped to the ground, Yun Xiao chuckled and said, "Apart from the fact that you don't have the ability to set up these formations right now, the primordial stones needed to maintain their operation are astronomical. Therefore, there are only 18 restrictive spells and 0 variations in my simplified version. They only have simple defensive and offensive abilities. But even so, they are a rare means at present." Yun Xiao took out a storage bag from his ring and threw it to Jia Rong as he said seriously, "From now on, all primordial stones are at your disposal. If these are not enough, come and get more from me at any time. Then he turned and took out another storage bag, handing it to Wuxia. Exchange everything inside for primordial stones while the trade fair is still being held in the city. Although Wuxia did not understand what they were saying, he could tell they were preparing to do something big, and it would cost a lot of primordial stones. He took the bag and looked inside. What he saw startled him, and he almost fell off the building. He did not know the value of all kinds of rare treasures in it, but the mountains of gold coins themselves pricked his eyes. Heavens! Although I am in charge of the finances of the richest city in Tianshui, I have never seen so many gold coins. What did this king of Wuxia do before? Where did he get so much money? I can't believe he trusts me so much and has entrusted me with such a large fortune. I must deliver results, so as to live up to his appreciation and trust in me. Jia Rong, on the other hand, was overwhelmed by Yunxiao's knowledge, and he screamed inside his head, "Heavens! He even knows the arrays that can kill martial emperors. I must learn them. I must set up these simplified versions of the arrays perfectly, so as to get young Master Yun's approval and let him teach me more advanced things in the future." Both men's thoughts were almost identical, and they were high in spirits, eager to start working at once. When Yunxiao had finished, he asked them to carry out the tasks immediately while he himself returned to the city lord mansion. Meng Wu had been waiting at the door. When she saw him, she hurried forward and said, "Young Master Yun, the people of Tianyuan Trading Company delivered pure sacred crystal and dark sulfur mist just now, and Myriad Treasure Store also sent you the catalog of auction items." Yun Xiao took everything from her and gave them a quick glance, then put them into his ring. All of a sudden, he smiled and said, "I need a steward in this city lord mansion to take care of daily affairs. Meng Wu, I want you to take up this position." "Ah? Steward? Me?" Meng Wu was taken aback, and then she said, No. How can I do it? This is such an important—" "Well, if I say you can, you can." Yun Xiao's eyes sparkled as he said firmly. "However, taking care of daily affairs is secondary. The most important thing for you is to cultivate yourself. Leave all the trifles to the servants, and only handle the major issues yourself." Before Meng Wu could refuse, Yun Xiao laughed and went into his room. Meanwhile, she stood there, thinking, why is he putting me in charge of something so important? And, as his steward, doesn't that mean I need to take care of his daily life? Could it be that he wants me to be his wife? How is that possible? Only stunning beauties with distinguished status like Teacher Luo and Princess Rushua deserve to be his wife. I'm just a nobody. But it may be possible. After all, he had touched me all over that day. Oh no! What if he wants me to warm his bed? Her face blushed in an instant. After thinking for a long time, she sighed plaintively and said, "It seems that I can only obey him. What choice do I have? Obey him? Obey who? Sis?" At some point, Meng Bai appeared in front of her and asked curiously, "Why is your face so warm again? I've noticed that you often have a fever recently." "Hey!" Furious from embarrassment, Meng Wu threw a palm at her brother. "How can you hide aside and eavesdrop on me? What did you hear? Tell me quickly." "I didn't hide." Looking aggrieved, Meng Bai quickly threw his head back and dodged the slap. "I've been standing in front of you for several minutes, but you didn't seem to see me. You must have a very bad fever." "Shut your mouth." Meng Wu felt very embarrassed. At the thought that her brother might have heard everything, her neck turned red with shyness. She stamped her foot and started chasing him. As the two siblings were equal in strength, they soon fought together while laughing and running up and down the mansion. After returning to his bedroom, Yun Xiao took out the catalog sent to him by Myriad Treasure Store and carefully flipped through it. His eyes gleamed with surprise, and he soon remembered all the auction items in his mind. With a wry smile on his face, he muttered to himself, "So many good things, but I have too little money, unfortunately." He went through the catalog several times before closing it, his eyes flashing as he seemed to have a plan. After that, he sat cross-legged down. With a flip of a hand, a pile of materials appeared on the ground in front of him, including the blood-striped tiger and the mysterious spirit fruit. Ha! A 4 quadrants fruit. If it weren't for my 1 chi of destiny, I would not be able to enjoy this fruit. Without hesitation, he put the fruit into his mouth and swallowed it in 1 gulp. If anyone saw him do that, their jaws would have dropped in shock and they would have scolded him for waste. Spirit fruits were the best alchemy materials because they contained the purest primordial chi. However, ordinary people could not absorb the chi by eating them directly, and could only turn them into pills before taking them. Demon beasts, on the other hand, could directly absorb this kind of spirit fruits. After swallowing the fruit, Xianxia immediately began to exercise 1 chi of destiny. Streams of powerful energy poured out of his stomach and were absorbed by his bones and flesh. He felt an indescribable comfort in his meridians and bones, as if they were being washed by spring water. At the same time, fog-like white aura emerged outside his body, obscuring his appearance. He looked like he was in an immortal realm, and the chi around him was so rich that it seemed to be already corporeal, moving rhythmically with his breath, as if it were alive. Bam! A force slammed and broke through his bottleneck, allowing him to step into the realm of 5 stars in an instant. However, Xianxia did not show any joy, as if all of this were supposed to happen. He continued to meditate, absorbing the rest of the spirit fruit's primordial chi. Phew! I'm so full. After some time, Xianxia finally woke up from his meditation. There was a foul smell on him, which came from the toxins excreted from his body. He felt extremely relaxed and pleasant, with streams of powerful primordial chi flowing back and forth in him. If only I could eat a spirit fruit every day. He had a look of discontentment on his face. It's a pity that this 4 quadrants fruit had lost too much primordial chi after it was picked. Otherwise, I would have made more progress. He flexed his body and performed a few postures in the tyrant body tempering technique before he began to study the blood-striped tiger. Apart from being covered with blood-red stripes and having 2 tusks like elephants, it was no different from ordinary tigers. Oh, what a pity! Xianxia gave a sudden cry and slapped himself on the thigh. It was a blood-striped tiger about to evolve into a tiger king. It would have evolved if it had eaten the fruit. No wonder it fought so desperately with the python. He began to quickly dismember the tiger's body, bottle its blood, skin it, and remove its bones. Soon, a whole blood-striped tiger was turned into bits and pieces by him. With these 2 tiger teeth and tiger blood, my sword can finally take shape. He took out the sword embryo from his ring, then pointed a finger between his eyebrows. Immediately, a shadow of the phoenix flame appeared in the air in front of him, and the temperature in the room began to rise sharply. Go! The sword made a few circuits in the air before flying into the shadow flame, and a powerful wave of spiritual energy immediately spread out in all directions like a tidal wave. Hee! This phoenix flame is indeed a divine object of heaven and earth. Just a trace of its shadow is already powerful enough to subdue a 3rd-tier sword embryo instantly. There was a triumphant smile on Xianxia's face as he threw a bottle of tiger blood he had just collected into the flames. With this blood as the catalyst, it will be easier to refine the teeth. As soon as the tiger blood was thrown into the flame, the air was stained with the color of blood and hung with a faint aura of violence. But, in the next moment, the shadow flame, which was still and unmoving, gave a little dance. Next, all of the violent aura vanished while the color of blood began to condense over the flame. Soon afterward, a drop of evil-looking blood was formed and fell on the sword embryo. Z. The sword embryo emanated an extremely painful spiritual wave, as if it had feelings. Meanwhile, Xianxia narrowed his eyes slightly and threw the 2 tiger teeth over as he began to refine them with the sword. There seemed to be an unyielding will in the teeth, but under the mighty power of the divine flame, all resistance was futile. In the blink of an eye, the will surrendered, and the teeth began to fuse with the sword embryo. Xianxia's face began to grow serious. After all, he was refining something that was beyond the 3rd tier, which was still very difficult for him at present. His hands flashed in incantation gestures. One spirit seal after another flew into the flame and imprinted into the sword embryo. With each new seal, the sword's spirit chi grew stronger. After a few hours, the spirit chi finally built up to a terrifying level. It's time to take shape. Refine the sword embryo. Divine flame. With his soft cry, the shadow flame seemed to become slightly corporeal, and his face instantly turned as pale as a sheet while the primordial chi in his body was completely drained. It scared the wits out of him. Hastily, he pushed the flame back into the divine realm tablet and threw a handful of medicinal pills into his mouth. Rumble. Meanwhile, dark clouds began to gather in the sky over the city lord mansion, with lightning flashing within. Fuck. Does it attract thunder tribulation every time I refine something? This phoenix divine flame is just too heaven-defying. Xianxia was taken aback. He had thought the Bodhi pill was an accident, but that seemed to not be the case. Bam! Just as he was startled, a tiny thunderbolt fell from the sky, smashing through the roof and striking on the sword embryo. Then, the dark clouds in the sky began to dissipate. Xianxia did not know whether to laugh or cry. Could this even be considered a thunder tribulation? Nevertheless, after being struck by the thunderbolt, the aura of the sword became much stronger. Clang! The sword made a shrill sound and whirled in the air several times before plunging into the wall. Blood-red lines appeared on the blade, and there seemed to be tigers leaping faintly out of them. Phew! Xianxia sat on the ground, exhausted. Looking at the sword stuck in the wall, he chuckled and said, "Since you have the will of a tiger, I'll call you Tiger Tooth." The auction was held in a venue temporarily constructed on the largest square in Yanwu. Although it would be used only for a very short time, the materials were all transported from Firecrow Empire, and their specifications were much stricter than those of regular buildings. The construction had begun even before the trade fair started. In just 7 days, a magnificent auction hall was built, which took the shape of an unfolded fan, enough to accommodate 10,000 people. Many separated rooms for distinguished guests were ready on the second floor, waiting to serve those with high status. Before the auction, all the aristocratic families of Firecrow Empire would receive a detailed list of the auction items. Many of these families would send representatives, such as their stewards, to bid for the items they wanted. So, even though the venue was large, it would be packed when all the invited people had arrived. At the handle of the fan-shaped auction hall was the place where the auction items were stored in the offices for all back-end works. There was a separate small room further inside, in which a heated argument was taking place. "Yin Xiaoyang, I don't care what your reason is, but I will not agree with this." The other guardian elder of Myriad Treasure's store, Gon Deming, looked angry as he said in a cold voice, "Our rules are ironclad, and no one can break them." Yin Xiaoyang gave a disdainful snort as he folded his arms over his chest and said, "As the guardian elder of Firecrow Branch, do I not have the right to auction an item?" "Of course you have, but you need to add it before the list of auction items is released," Gon Deming said. "With the list delivered to all the aristocratic families, how will others look at us if we add some items now?" Not convinced, Yin Xiaoyang said with a sneer, "This is not the first time. I remember once Elder Gons Jr. had brought a 5th-tier alchemy product, which was added directly to the list even after the list was sent out." Gon Deming flared. "A 5th-tier alchemy product is naturally qualified to be added at any time." "Elder Gon is right," said Su Zijua, the manager of the Firecrow branch, who was standing to the side in silence. "I will not stop Elder Yin if the item is a 5th-tier alchemy product. But the funny thing is, Elder Yin, even you have no idea what the item is. If we allow it to be added, and it turns out to be just a 1st or 2nd-tier item, we will make ourselves a laughingstock of others, and Myriad Treasure Store's reputation will be damaged." There was a faint, confused look in Yin Xiaoyang's eyes, but he said firmly, "I'm sure the quality of the item will not be inferior. If anything happens, I will bear full responsibility." That gave Su Zijua a pause. His eyes flashed with surprise at Yin Xiaoyang's resolute look, and he fell silent while pondering. "Ha! You will bear full responsibility? Can you?" Gon Deming sneered. "If you are bent on your own way, I will report this and the murder in the trade fair several days ago to Lord Xie Yuhang. Let's see how you are going to bear the responsibility. Yin Xiaoyang's face flickered, and his heart sunk a little. Although he and Gon Deming did not like each other and had fought for many years, their battles were limited to ordinary affairs and would never involve the higher-ups. Both of them knew that to cut others some slack was to give oneself the leeway in time of need, and none of them could afford the anger from above. But this time, Gon Deming had threatened him blatantly. "Humph! Suit yourself," Yin Xiaoyang said coldly. "I will explain if Lord Xie Yuhang asks me about it. You have no right to know." With a flick of his sleeve, he turned and left. He was a little nervous at first, but when he thought of what Yuan Bo told him, he immediately calmed down. "Treat him the same way you treat me." Gon Deming's face fell, and he bellowed, "Don't you regret it, Yin Xiaoyang?" Paying him no more mind, Yin Xiaoyang walked straight out of the auction hall. Gon Deming, on the other hand, was fuming with rage as he said, "My lord, you've heard him too. He's just too much. He has broken our rules in a row. I can't stand it anymore this time. I will report him to Lord Xie Yuhang." Su Zijua's face was full of suspicion, and there was a look of uncertainty in his eyes as he watched Yin Xiaoyang walk away. "Elder Gon, what do you think of Yin Xiaoyang?" Gon Deming froze for a moment, then sneered. "Narrow-minded and selfish. Apart from his cultivation base, his character is good for nothing." A wry smile brushed Su Zijua's lips. The fight between the two had been a headache for him. Although Gon Deming was a little biased, what he said was not far from the truth. "This is what puzzles me. Why does someone like him insist on doing that, even at the risk of being punished by Lord Xie Yuhang? Ugh? Why?" Gon Deming felt strange as well. Rubbing his temple with a thumb, Su Zijua said in a low voice, "Do you know who the victims in the murder a few days ago were? Xianxia, the only heir of the Xingyang family, and Cheng Fish, the direct descendant of the Cheng family. In addition to them, 2 martial kings, 5 martial lords, and some 30 men with weaker cultivation levels also died." "Ah!" Gon Deming jumped to his feet, aghast. "How did that happen? Who killed them? How could Yin Xiaoyang never tell us anything? I thought the victims were just some insignificant men. Did he not then make 2 great enemies for the myriad treasure store?" With a confused look, Su Zijua shook his head slightly and said, "It's too early to say that he has made 2 great enemies for us. After all, we didn't kill them, so they can just blame us for poor management at most, which can be settled with primordial stones. What puzzles me is why would Yin Xiaoyang, an egoist, be willing to take such a big risk for a mere city lord of Yanwu?" "The city lord of Yanwu?" Gon Deming frowned. "You mean those people were killed by the city lord? But why would he want to kill Xianxia and Cheng Fish? Isn't that a sure way of getting himself killed? What was Yin Xiaoyang even thinking?" Su Zijua's face grew serious. "There must be some information we don't know, and that information must have been learned by Yin Xiaoyang. And because of that, he is protecting the city lord of Yanwu at the risk of offending both families, and even insisted on adding an item unknown even to him in the list of auction items at the risk of being punished by Lord Xie Yuhang. With his character, he would not have done so if he had not been absolutely sure." "You mean, the city lord of Yanwu is the one who wants to add the item? But how can a man of a low status like him have such an influence?" Gon Deming said incredulously. "Even their emperor cannot make Yin Xiaoyang do this. I wonder what information has he learned? I've sent my men to investigate. Over the last few days, this mysterious city lord is the only person Yin Xiaoyang has been in touch with. So the item must be his. As for what information he has learned, I do not know. But I'm sure it must be related to this city lord." Su Zijua stood up and paced back and forth in the room, then said, "I was angered by his decision of sending the bodies of Xianxia and Cheng Fish back in such a hasty manner, and I've ordered them to be seized. But from what I can see now, he should have no fear at all. If that is the case, I will not be worried for him anymore. I will let them send the bodies back to Firecrow Empire, and I'll let him do what he wants in this auction. I, too, want to know what the item the city lord wishes to auction off is." "Still," Gon Deming said with some reluctance, "but what if it is just some ordinary item? That will make us a laughing stock." Su Zizhua chuckled. Didn't Yin Zhaoyang say he would take full responsibility? If he's so confident, everything should be fine. Besides, his eyes narrowed slightly, and his gaze seemed to penetrate layers of walls and look at the city lord mansion in the distance. I actually wish something can happen, so that we will know what gave him the courage to be so arrogant. Very soon, the Thousand Treasures trade fair came to an end after it was held for several days. There was one last event to take place, which was also one that everyone was concerned about the most: the auction. True aristocratic families had deep reserves, so they were disdained to participate in ordinary auctions, but they would all flock to auctions held by Myriad Treasures store. After all, not only could they fight for some rare items, but being able to participate in such events was itself a symbol of status. Even the imperial members of Firecrow Empire would send their representatives. Su Zizhua gave a quick glance at a room for distinguished guests next to the room designated for the imperial members of Firecrow Empire on the second floor. He was shocked as he just saw Yin Zhaoyang bring a group of people into the room, and the leading 15-year-old youth was the city lord of Yanwu, whom he had been investigating for days. What startled him was the fact that in Yin Zhaoyang's heart, the status of this city lord was equivalent to that of the Firecrow's imperial members. The discovery further strengthened his speculation. That was, Yin Zhaoyang must have learned something they did not know, which was related to this new city lord, Li Yunxiao. Looking at the packed hall, which was already fully seated, Su Zizhua smiled and said, "Welcome to the yearly auction hosted by Myriad Treasures store. I, Su Zizhua, thank every one of you for the business over the last year. Now, I present to you the chief auctioneer of Myriad Treasures store, Mr. May." His voice was not loud, but it rang softly in every ear, as if he were talking right in front of everyone. Apart from his strength as a great martial master, the reason he could do that was because of the auction hall structure. Although he was just a great martial master, he was also a fifth-tier alchemist, and he was a very famous figure in Firecrow. As soon as he had finished speaking, applause broke out among the crowd. Then, a hunchback old man with a head of white hair walked up to the auction stand, and the crowd fell silent instantly. Mr. May, a member of the May family? Yunxiao was surprised as he looked at the old man on the stand. Myriad Treasures store is indeed wealthy. Although this is just an auction held by your Firecrow branch, you can still hire a member of the May family to host it. Well, all our previous auctions were hosted by this same Mr. May, said Yin Zhaoyang with a smile. Young Master Yun, I've arranged for your item to be auctioned during the halftime. May I know what that item is? He asked carefully. He was still a little nervous, fearing it would just be some ordinary item. Yunxiao smiled at him and said, "Thank you for the help, Elder Yin. You will know when the time comes. With Mr. May here, I don't have to worry about nobody knowing the value of my item." He was accompanied by Xiao Qingwang, Chun Dashing, Luo Yunshang, Meng Wu, and Meng Bai. They all had the same puzzled look on their faces while Meng Bai asked, "Master, who is this Mr. May? Is he very famous?" "I don't know this Mr. May. Everyone who comes from the May family is called Mr. May, but I do know their family head is called Mei Yixian. Members of this family all have a strange quality. That is, they are innately sensitive to all kinds of treasures, and they always provide the most reasonable price of the treasure they appraise. Therefore, any auction that is slightly famous across the continent must be hosted by them." Amazed, Xiao Qingwang said, "Oh, they can do that? Is it because they have an art of appraisal passed down from their ancestors?" Yunxiao said, "I've thought about that before, but I think their bloodline is the reason. There must be an ability to identify treasures in their bloodline. And together with some appraisal techniques, they are able to achieve such results." Yin Zhaoyang was so shocked that he could hardly speak. The Mei family had always been mysterious. Few knew the name of their family head, and he was not one of them. He did not expect Yunxiao to say the name and seemed to understand this family quite well. Heavens! He is only 15 years old. How does he know so much? Meng Bai's eyes lit up when he heard that, and he said excitedly, "There is actually such an ability? I want to learn it, then use it to look for treasures in deep mountains and ancient forests. I will be rich." Don't embarrass me. Yun Xiao kicked him away. Yin Xiaoyang laughed dryly. Young Master Yun, among all the auction items, which one do you need? Yun Xiao smiled and said lightly, Elder Yin will know when the time comes. The snub sent Yin Xiaoyang to stand lamely to the side and shut his mouth. Xiao Qingwang and others exchanged a look, all smiling wryly in their hearts. Of all the people they knew, perhaps only Yun Xiao alone dared to treat a martial grandmaster like that, and they had begun to get used to it. Soon the auction began. The first item was a 4th-tier purple spirit pill, which could reinforce the vital essence, strengthen the primordial qi, and greatly increase the efficiency of meditation and breaking through bottlenecks. It was one of the few rarest 4th-tier medicinal pills. However, such a medicinal pill was only in high demand among those lone warriors, because aristocratic families with deep reserves usually had large stockpiles. As a result, the bidders were all lone warriors, and no one from the 12 distinguished rooms on the 2nd floor had called a bid. Elder Yin, do the Chung family and Xingyang family have representatives here in this auction? Yun Xiao asked suddenly. With a wry smile, Yin Xiaoyang said, No. We didn't prepare a distinguished room for the Xingyang family, and when the members of the Chung family died, their room was vacated, which was given to you, young Master Yun. The people in the other distinguished rooms are not ordinary people either, said Xiao Qingwang in a deep voice. Although each room is tightly sealed, I can still sense waves of powerful aura leaking out of them. They are likely no common aristocratic families. A faint smile brushed Yun Xiao's lips. He had long found out the situation of all the other distinguished rooms with his divine sense. Which room is taken by the Zhou family? Xiao Qingwang and the others were taken aback, and they immediately thought of Zhou Yushan. While frowning, Yin Xiaoyang said, The 3rd room from the left. Yun Xiao nodded slightly and did not speak another word. Everyone was a little confused as to the intention of his question. 2,000 medial-grade primordial stones. 2,500. 3,000. The bid of the first item, a purple spirit pill, stopped at 3,000 medial-grade primordial stones. A warrior with a scar on his face breathed a heavy sigh of relief, but he had a pained expression at the same time. 3,000 medial-grade primordial stones were almost half his wealth, but he had been stuck at the peak level of a 9-stars great martial master for 2 years. If he could make the breakthrough with this purple spirit pill, it would be worth it even if it cost 30,000. Congratulations to our friend in seat 133 for winning the first item. What a great start for today's auction. The second item is a 3rd-tier spirit severing saber, which is a work of Master Luo Tian, said Mr. May. What? A 3rd-tier spirit severing saber refined by Master Luo Tian. At first, the crowd lost their interest when they heard it was a 3rd-tier item, but as soon as they heard that it was refined by Luo Tian, they became high in spirits and their eyes shone with curiosity, while some alchemists straightened their bodies. A 3rd-tier weapon was useless to them, but they could study Master Luotian's refining techniques through it. In alchemy, it was extremely difficult for one to make progress, and all alchemists were willing to pay any price for even just the smallest progress. It was also the reason why Zhang Qingfan and the others were so grateful for Yun Xiao. Oh, an item refined by Luo Tian. There was a surprising look in Yun Xiao's eyes as he smiled and said, Even if it is real, it should be his work when he was young, not worth looking at. These alchemists are going to waste their money. Meng Bai leaned over again and asked carefully, Now, who is this Luotan? A 3rd-tier weapon is nothing. My master can refine it as well. He paid close attention to Yun Xiao, and when he saw the first sign he was turning around, he covered his head with both hands and jumped away with a wary look. His funny look made Luo Yunshang chuckle, and she said, Master Luo Tian is an elder at the headquarters of the Alchemist Association, a renowned 9th-tier alchemy sovereign. When she had finished, her glance drifted over to Yun Xiao, and she thought, that man is also a 9th-tier alchemy sovereign. A 9th-tier alchemy sovereign. Xiao Qingwang and Chen Dashing were taken aback. To them, a 9th-tier alchemy sovereign was like a god, and they could only look up at one in reverence. Meanwhile, the price for the saber had shot up to 5,000 medial-grade primordial stones. Alchemy truly was the richest profession. for bids were called and countered heatedly, and no one seemed to find it expensive. Eventually, it was sold for 8,000. Xianxia was amazed by the price, and he could not help but say, with Luoyan's current strength, he can refine at least 100 third-tier items in a day. Wait, that means he can make 800,000 medial-grade primordial stones every day. Even he was shocked by that figure. With eyes lighting up and an evil smile on his face, he said, next time when I see him, I should lock him in a room for a few days and make him refine items for me. That frightened everyone behind him, while Xiaoyang said with cold sweat breaking out of his forehead, young Master Yun, you shouldn't make that joke. A deadly disaster will befall you if someone were to spread it. Yunxiao only smiled and said nothing as the auction continued. Most of the items were third-tier and fourth-tier, and there were occasionally fifth-tier items, all of which were sold at astronomical prices. The rule of the auction was that Myriad Treasure Store would deduct 20% from the winning bids as fees. At this rate, the claim that Myriad Treasure Store was the richest organization in the world should be true. Before very long, an item caught Yunxiao's attention, and his eyes gradually grew large. Mr. May gently caressed a small purple cauldron, his eyes filled with deep admiration as he said with a faint smile, this is a fifth-tier purple cauldron, named the Cauldron of 5 Elements. It is refined by the legendary 9th-tier alchemy sovereign Lord Gu Feiyang. It is not only an ordinary 5th-tier alchemy cauldron, but also contains the complete essence of the 5 Elements realm. When a 4th-tier alchemist is using it, he can muster the natural power of 5 elements, producing an alchemy product that is beyond the 4th tier. A cauldron left behind by Lord Gu Feiyang. What? The complete essence of the 5 Elements realm? Doesn't that mean it contains the Tao fruit of 5 elements? Damn it! If I can get it and study the essence, I can immediately become a peak martial king. You bet. This is not a wisp of martial arts conception, but martial essence. Isn't that nonsense? This is not just a simple alchemy cauldron. By itself, it is already a 5th-tier mystic weapon with great power. A 5th-tier purple cauldron doubling as a mystic weapon that contains the Tao fruit of 5 elements, heavens. How could there be such a heaven-defying thing in the world? Humph. You know nothing. Have you forgotten that Gu Feiyang is the martial sovereign vanquisher? I won't be surprised even if the cauldron contains a wisp of the 9 heavens conception, let alone the Tao fruit of 5 elements. A trace of a smile appeared on Mr. May's face as he listened to the chatter. That's right, this cauldron of 5 elements is one of the rarest items of today's auction. Its value is beyond measure, so we have not set a base price for it. You may call your bids at will. The crowd fell silent in an instant. Everyone knew a storm of bidding was coming, and the atmosphere in the hall grew intense. It is his thing. Luo Yunxiang had a look of shock in her eyes. She glanced at Yunxiao, hoping to see something from his expression, but she was disappointed. Yunxiao's face was as calm as the still water of an ancient well. Suddenly, Yunxiao smiled and said, Elder Yin, do you also want to bid on this cauldron? I can sense the restlessness in your heart, and your palms are sweating. There was a flicker of shock in Yin Zhaoyang's eyes, but then he sighed. Although I've reached the perfection of the 5 elements and stepped into the realm of martial grandmasters, this is, after all, a 5th-tier mystic weapon, and is of the best quality. Yes, Myriad Treasure Store is wealthy, but a 5th-tier mystic weapon is not something you will find every day. I see. Yunxiao smiled. Yin Zhaoyang felt extremely uncomfortable. No matter how he looked, this Li Yunxiao was only 15 years old. And yet, when standing in front of this young man, he had a feeling that he was facing a grandmaster who seemed capable of seeing through all his deeds, words, and thoughts. He did not like that feeling. Are you interested in this cauldron as well, young Master Yun? He asked carefully. Yunxiao smiled softly and said, Yes, this cauldron is also one of the items I want to get. Upon hearing that, everyone in the room felt nervous, and they turned to look at the auction stand together. 10,000 medial-grade primordial stones. After a brief moment of silence, someone finally called a bid, wrinkling the calmness in the air. All kinds of bids erupted out in the next instant, the voices so loud that they rumbled like a thunderstorm. Fuck. Do you think you can buy this with only 10,000 medial-grade primordial stones? Get the hell out of here, you poor bastard. 50,000 medial-grade primordial stones. 50,000? You are as poor as that guy. How can you buy the cauldron of 5 elements with just medial-grade primordial stones? Fuck. 1,000 superior-grade primordial stones. 3,000 superior-grade primordial stones. Xianxia was dumbfounded as he watched the price rise rapidly. 10,000 superior-grade primordial stones. Suddenly, a voice rang out from the distinguished room next to his. Although soft, it drowned all other voices and was heard by everyone. What? 10,000 superior-grade primordial stones. Fuck. Did I hear that right? 10,000 superior-grade primordial stones are equivalent to 1 million medial-grade primordial stones. Who is this spendthrift? Keep your voice low. Didn't you hear it is coming from the distinguished room in the center? That's where the imperial members of the Firecrow Empire stay. Damn it! Now that the imperial members of Firecrow have joined the bidding, I think we can give up already. Who can be richer than them? For a moment, curses rang out everywhere. Among the crowd, many were not afraid of the imperial family, and because most of them were lone warriors, they had not much to worry about. While smiling, Mr. May slammed his hammer on the table and shouted, "Quiet, please! 10,000 superior-grade primordial stones. Going once, going twice. 12,000. No longer able to hold himself back, Xianxia called out a bid. If truth be told, he did not have 12,000 superior-grade primordial stones. But, if he did not fight now, the cauldron would fall into the hands of the Firecrow's imperial family, and it would be extremely difficult for him to get it back. What? 12,000? Which room called the bid? Who is in that room? Who knows? But I do know that all the rooms up there are occupied by super-aristocratic families with at least 1,000 years of history. Ah well, we can never compete with them. That's true. Let them fight among themselves. The fiercer the better. In the middle distinguished room, a comely young man sat lazily in a chair. He frowned slightly and asked a middle-aged man, "Uncle Yu, who is in the room next to us?" The man was called Yu Jilin, and he said, "It is likely to be the Chung family, Your Highness. My divine sense was stopped by a very strong divine sense, so there must be at least a 4th-tier alchemist in that room. I've looked through all the other rooms and have not seen anyone from the Chung family." The handsome young man was actually the crown prince of Firecrow, Xianxia. "I thought some said the people of Chung family were murdered a few days ago?" he said suspiciously. Yu Jilin chuckled. "After all, our men did not see that with their own eyes. Besides, only a handful of powers dare to kill anyone from Chung family, but none of them would want to offend them so openly. I guess they were just seriously wounded, but not dead." Xianxia nodded lightly and said, "Since there is a 4th-tier alchemist in the room, then it is very likely that they are from the Chung family. Call a few more bids. Although this cauldron of 5 elements is amazing, it is already overpriced." "I understand," Yu Jilin answered softly. He considered a moment before shouting, 15,000 superior-grade primordial stones. 15,000. The crowd was stunned by the addition of 3,000 in just one bid. These were all superior-grade primordial stones. Xianxia sucked in a cold breath and fell back to his chair, his face shocked. The price was completely beyond his imagination. He could not help but smile wryly in his heart. If I had known this thing was so valuable, I would have refined more to sell in my previous life. Mr. May was slightly excited as well. In a loud, clear voice, he shouted, 15,000 superior-grade primordial stones. Going once, going twice. 18,000! Another voice joined the bidding game, shocking everyone with another addition of 3,000. The crowd looked up and saw the voice come from the 3rd room on the left. Xianxia's face flickered. Zhou family? Yu Jilin was surprised as well. Why do they want this cauldron? After pondering for a moment, Xianxia chuckled and said, "I know the reason. Zhou Yushan has recently gotten quite a good fortune, and it seems the fortune is greater than I've expected. Is he about to make a breakthrough and become a martial king?" Startled, Yu Jilin said, "Your Highness is referring to, yes, it is possible. If he can get this cauldron of 5 elements and study the Tao fruit of 5 elements in it, the chances for him to become a martial king are very high. And if he can fully understand it, he will be almost invincible in the realm of martial kings. After all, this is the Tao fruit of 5 elements left behind by Gu Feiyang. Yes, if Zhou Yushan can become a martial king, he will add some strength to the empire," said Exine Ryu with a smile. "Let him get the cauldron. But, with its price soaring to such a high level, it seems Myriad Treasure Store is laughing now with the profit." A man who looked like a steward was breaking out in a cold sweat inside the 3rd distinguished room on the left. His eyes were fixed on the purple cauldron, and he was breathing rapidly, as if he could hardly withstand the mental pressure. Behind him stood 2 old men, whose faces were livid. Judging from their aura, both of them were martial kings. One of them was named Pang Chengguen, and he said, "I can't believe it reached such a high price, but His Lordship has ordered us to bring the cauldron back no matter what. We have no other choice but to fight to the end." The steward, Zhou Chuan, wiped the cold sweat on his face with a hand and said in a trembling voice, "Luckily, it is the imperial family we are bidding against. Otherwise, I will be flayed by His Lordship for buying the cauldron at this insane price." Another martial king, Shi Rueda, said seriously, "We wouldn't have to lose so much money if not because young Master Yushan urgently needed to study this Tao fruit of 5 elements after he obtained that great fortune recently." The 3 men watched and waited nervously, but no one dared to call another bid. After asking 3 times in an excited voice, Mr. May slammed his hammer on the table. "The cauldron of 5 elements is sold for 18,000 superior-grade primordial stones." Everyone breathed a long sigh of relief while Zhou Chuan simply sat down on the floor, gasping for breath. Such a high price had already gone beyond his bottom line, and certainly His Lordship's. He did not know whether it was good or bad to bring it back now. "Ah, it is bought by the Zhou family." Yun Xiao, too, breathed a sigh of relief, and he had a bright smile on his face. "Excellent. This is excellent." Xiao Qingwang and others exchanged a look. Yun Xiao's relaxed smile suddenly gave them a bad feeling. What was the meaning behind that smile, when the Zhou family was his sworn enemy now? Yin Zhaoyang was stunned by the price as well. With a wry smile on his face, he asked, "Is young Master Yun a friend of the Zhou family?" Yun Xiao smiled softly and said, "No, I've only met them once. It's good that they have purchased the cauldron. Now I can borrow it from them." Sure enough, Xiao Qingwang and the others were shocked. So, this lad really did plan to rob the cauldron from the Zhou family, one of the 4 major families in the Firecrow Empire. Heavens! He had just killed the people of the Chung family, and now he was planning to rob the Zhou family. Was he going to offend all 4 families and then wait for them to attack him with great armies? Although there was bad blood between him and Zhou Yushan, and they had agreed to have a match. But that was, after all, the grudge between 2 individuals. If he really robbed the Zhou family this time, the grudge would immediately elevate to the level of the family, and the consequence would be identical to his murder of the people of Chung family. Xiao Qingwang and Chen Dashing felt they were about to faint. Neither the Zhou family nor the Chung family could be resisted by Tianshui, let alone a mere city of Yanwu. "Borrow?" Yin Zhaoyang laughed. "Young Master Yun, you may have a great influence, but I don't think they will lend you such a precious treasure." He did not know the feud between Yun Xiao and Zhou Yushan, and he thought Yun Xiao was really going to borrow the cauldron, so he smiled relaxedly. "It's your item to be auctioned next, young Master Yun." Yun Xiao smiled and narrowed his eyes as he said lightly, "It seems I need to sell more things. Otherwise, I may not be able to buy that treasure later on." He took out 3 jade slips and pressed them against his forehead, recording something in them. After that, he beckoned Meng Wu over and whispered a few words into her ears, sending her out of the room. Yin Zhaoyang's eyelids twitched slightly. Is it jade slips he wants to auction? Jade slips were a kind of media used to record some information, especially those containing the laws of the world, which could not be recorded with ordinary papers or jade medallions. However, The information containing the laws of the world were all high-level things, which could not be remembered in the heads by ordinary warriors or alchemists. When he saw Yun Xiao himself record something into the jade slips, Yin Zhaoyang felt his head reel, and he knew things were about to turn really bad for him. The things inside them are definitely not beyond the 4th tier. After all, with his strength of a 3rd-tier alchemist, it is impossible that he can master anything of higher tier. Meng Wu quickly entered the backstage of the auction hall through an aisle. Soon, a beautiful maid came on the stage with 3 jade slips in a tray and presented them to the crowd. Mr. May gave the 3 jade slips a glance, then smiled and said, "Now, these are items added in the last minute, so I don't know what they are yet, but from what I can see, they should be martial techniques or something similar. And since they are recorded on jade slips, they should be of a high level." Inside the distinguished room, Yin Zhaoyang slapped himself on the forehead, feeling very dizzy. Higher level my ass. 4th tier will be the highest level information a 3rd-tier alchemist can record in those jade slips. Wordless, Su Zijua and Gon Deming were staring at the 3 jade slips from the backstage as well. Mr. May randomly took a jade slip and placed it against his forehead as he began to identify it. The May clan's art of appraisal was unparalleled. Suddenly, he frowned, his pupils constricted, and then an incredulous look crept up his face. Yin Zhaoyang almost vomited blood as he watched that. Oh no! They are really rubbish. Even Mr. May cannot believe something so ridiculous. Ah well, since this lad has Elder Yuan behind him, they can't blame me for this. Meanwhile, under the gazes of all, Mr. May's face turned extremely pale, as if he just saw something terrible. Puke! A mouthful of blood sprayed out of his mouth while he moved back a few steps on the stage and fell back on his buttocks, with shock and terror in his eyes. Mr. May! Su Zijua hurried up from the backstage and helped Mr. May to his feet as he asked shockingly, "What's the matter?" "There's something wrong with the jade slips." Everyone was dumbfounded by the change and became somewhat confused. The intense atmosphere of the auction was slightly relieved, however, as the crowd was eager to know what was going on. Yin Zhaoyang was startled as he thought to himself, "What happened? Is it because the thing inside is not even 3rd tier, and he is so angry that he vomited blood?" Mr. May shook his head as he opened his mouth and coughed out another mouthful of blood. Hurriedly, Su Zijua took out a medicinal pill and shoved it into his mouth, and only then did he look better. After thanking Su Zijua, Mr. May stared at the jade slip with reverence in his eyes and said, "The information recorded in this jade slip is beyond the 6th tier. I tried to crack it with force, but as I am not strong enough, it hit back at me. If I had known you have items that are beyond the 6th tier, I would not dare to come here and host the auction." He gave Su Zijua a somewhat reproachful look as he smiled wryly and said, "I think you have to invite someone better than me in the May family to appraise these few jade slips." "What? Items that are beyond the 6th tier? Heavens! Wouldn't that make them 7th tier items?" 7th tier? Are you kidding me? Information of the 7th tier already contains the laws of the world, and each is a priceless treasure. Who would be so stupid as to auction it off? Didn't you see even Mr. May get wounded by it? Are you not believing in May family's art of appraisal? Damn it, 7th tier. How do you expect me to believe that? Su Zijua looked shocked too as he swallowed hard and asked, "Mr. May, are you sure that thing in it is 7th tier?" It was a rude question, but he had to ask it because even he could not believe that. Mr. May understood what he meant. He gave a bitter laugh and said, "I don't know if it is truly the 7th tier because I have not identified it, but I'm sure it is beyond the 6th tier because I've never failed to identify anything below the 6th tier." Everyone was astounded, and they had no more doubts. Their eyes lit up with greed, staring at the jade slips in the tray. All of a sudden, the atmosphere in the hall grew intense. Su Zijua's face flickered. He was, after all, the manager of the Firecrow branch, so he was very good at handling things. He took a deep breath and shouted, "Elder Gon, increase all security to the special level. No one is allowed to walk in the hall, and no one is permitted to enter or leave. And all of you, please retract your auras." Anyone who dares to release his aura will be deemed as a threat, and he will be killed on the spot. Suddenly, dozens of figures were running back and forth around the auction hall, watching closely at every corner. They were all Myriad Treasure Store's guards. Gon Deming also released his divine sense and enveloped the whole place. Anyone who tried to do something reckless would be immediately detected by him. Su Zizhua cried out in a deep voice again, "I hope those in the distinguished rooms on the second floor can help Myriad Treasure Store maintain the order. You all are famous figures in the Firecrow Empire, so if anyone tries to act recklessly later and we can't handle them, I hope you all can lend us a helping hand." After all, 7th-tier items were too heaven-defying in such a remote place, so Su Zizhua had prepared for the worst. Just then, Xian Ruyu's voice rang out of the middle room. "Don't worry, Manager Su. If anyone dares to strike, we, the Xian family of Firecrow Empire, will not just sit back and watch." The Xian family. They are really from the Imperial family. The people down below all looked at the room in shock. Everyone knew that the Xian family was the Imperial family of the Firecrow Empire. Upon hearing that, the faces of some lone warriors, who were harboring ill intentions, grew serious as they suppressed their greed. It was no different from digging their own graves if they struck now. After all, nothing was more important than their lives. Inside the distinguished room next to the Imperial family, Yin Zhaoyang, Xiao Qingwang, and the others were staring blankly at the stage with wide eyes, all frozen to the spot. Luo Yunshang and Meng Bai were the only two who looked normal. The former was born in Shanxiao Temple, and Shi Nugu Feiyang was behind Yunxiao, and the latter simply had no idea about the value of a 7th-tier item. Meanwhile, Su Zizhua had invited Meng Wu up to the stage. With a complicated look in his eyes, he said, "Young lady, what is inside these 3 jade slips? Can you please introduce them?" Since Mr. Mei had failed to identify them, he had to invite the owner to speak. Otherwise, how could the items be auctioned off? Meng Wu's face was blank as well, but a voice was soon transmitted into her ear, and she nodded slightly. Realizing that someone was sending her a voice transmission, the crowd tried to tap into it. However, they discovered that the voice was protected by a very strong divine sense, which repelled all the divine senses rushing at it. "It is that 4th-tier alchemist," Yu Jilin said in a low voice. "The divine sense belongs to the 4th-tier alchemist next to us." Xian Ruyu was taken aback, and he said incredulously, "The Chung family is auctioning off these 3 jade slips? How's that possible? What's their purpose?" Yu Jilin narrowed his eyes. "Perhaps we've guessed it wrongly. The people next to us may not be from the Chung family. They may have really died in the trade fair a few days ago." Surprised, Xian Ryu asked, "Who would they be then?" "I have a guess, but I don't know whether it is correct or not. We shall see. Since these 3 jade slips are 7th-tier items, we cannot let them slip through our hands." Xian Ryu nodded lightly. 7th-tier items were rare even in the Imperial Palace. Meng Wu had come to her senses from the voice transmission, but she was still extremely nervous when there were 10,000 people staring at her at the same time. Carefully, she told Su Zizhua, "Young Master Yun said the 3 jade slips are the recipe of the 7th-tier Xiaoyang pill, the recipe of the 7th-tier 5 mountains clothes, and the diagram of the 7th-tier pale wolf array. Sure enough, they are all 7th-tier items." Everyone was shocked when they heard that, but not many people had any expressions on their faces, because most of them had never heard of these 3 items. "What?" Unexpectedly, the first person to shout was Su Zizhua. His eyes shone brightly as he grabbed Meng Wu's shoulders and said, "One of them is the recipe of Xiaoyang pill? You didn't lie to me, did you?" He shook her so hard that she felt pain. She wrenched free of his clutch and said, "Since young Master Yun said so, it is true then." "Young Master Yun? Who is this young Master Yun?" The crowd was surprised and chatters filled the hall in an instant. "Sure enough," Yu Jilin said, "the man in the room next to us is Li Yunxiao, who was recently made the king of Wuqing by their Emperor Qin Yu and the city lord of Yanwu." Xian Ruyu furrowed his eyebrows in surprise. "Li Yunxiao? Why haven't I heard you mention this guy?" And how does a city lord of a small state have 7th-tier items? Yu Jilin shook his head and said, This Li Yunxiao only started to catch my attention after he killed Cheng Fish. I don't know much about him right now. It seems that I need to investigate him thoroughly when I get back. Puzzled, Xian Ruyu said, Since he dares to kill Cheng Fish, this Li Yunxiao is either a madman or a very strong man. We need to pay him a little more attention. In his eyes, a city lord of a small state able to let him pay a little more attention was already a very strange thing. Yu Jilin sent his divine sense into the next room again, but it was still repelled by another divine sense. Although he was not an alchemist, only an alchemist of 4th tier or above could have a divine sense stronger than his. Su Zizhua realized that he had forgotten himself. So, he hastily calmed himself down. But there was an excited look in his eyes that could not be concealed. Although the crowd did not know what a Xiaoyang pill was, they knew it must be something extraordinary, as even Su Zizhua, a 5th-tier alchemist, had forgotten himself because of it. Suddenly, Mr. Mei said, Young lady, I suggest that these 3 jade slips are auctioned separately. Otherwise, the price will be too high for ordinary people to afford. And, if you sell them together, they won't fetch a good price either. Meng Wu's face was blank, but she received Yunxiao's voice transmission very soon. She bowed slightly and said, We will do as what Mr. Mei suggests. After regulating his breath for a moment, Mr. Mei finally recovered. He glanced at the 3 jade slips in great awe, then walked in front of the auction stand and said, I believe you have all heard that just now. These 3 jade slips are 7th-tier items. As for their functions, I do not know. May I invite this young lady to explain to us? Su Zizhua's face flickered. He did not wish Meng Wu to say anything. After all, not many people here were knowledgeable. If the jade slips were introduced one by one, their value would become immeasurable. He smiled bitterly as he watched Meng Wu listen attentively to the voice transmission. He knew he was about to lose a lot of money this time, but no matter how much it would cost, he was determined to get the recipe of the Xiaoyang pill. Meng Wu walked carefully to the auction stand and spoke aloud. Fearing that her voice was too soft to be heard and causing the items to be auctioned off at a poor price, she almost screamed every word out. Her effort turned her face and neck red, making her look especially cute. The Xiaoyang pill is a 7th-tier medicinal pill. It can restore a man his original pure yang body, that is, his virgin body. The 5 Mountains clothes is a 7th-tier battle suit. It can ignore any attack from anyone below the realm of martial supremes. The Pale Wolf sword diagram is a set of 7th-tier sword arrays. When activated, it can kill even a martial supreme. Her voice was clear and pleasant to the ear, but it shocked and petrified all the 10,000 people in the hall. Ignore any attack from anyone below the realm of martial supremes. It can kill even a martial supreme. The sound of sucking in breaths rang out across the crowd. To them, a martial supreme was like a god who protected a state. But such a mighty existence could be killed with a sword array? And a battle suit could resist any attack from anyone below the realm of martial supremes? No one seemed to pay attention to the pill recipe, however. What? A pill that restores a man his pure yang body and turns him back to a virgin? What's the point of that? Even if it works, the man will lose his virginity the same night. Only some alchemists were startled on hearing that. To some cultivators, such an effect was no doubt equivalent to a second life, especially those who cultivated strange techniques that required a pure yang body to reach perfection. And Su Zizhua was, in fact, one of such cultivators. Such an effect was almost equivalent to reshaping the fleshly body, which made it a very powerful medicinal pill. However, it was of not much use to most people. When Su Zizhua saw that the crowd focusing on the 5 Mountains clothes and Pale Wolf sword diagram, he breathed a sigh of relief. In his heart, he was sneering at these Philistines who knew nothing about alchemy. It was perfectly normal for a 7th-tier battle suit to ignore any attack from anyone below the realm of martial supremes. The problem was, when one had the ability to refine a 7th-tier battle suit, it meant that he were at least a martial supreme. In that case, her could already ignore anyone below the realm of martial supremes with his strength alone. As for that Pale Wolf sword diagram, Well, it was indeed somewhat freakish to be able to kill a martial supreme, but a 7th-tier sword array could only be controlled with the strength of a martial supreme. These frogs in the well are too blind to see. They never take their strength into consideration before drooling at such incredible items. Even if they purchase them, they would have to find a 7th-tier alchemist to refine the item for them. In the whole Firecrow, there is not even a single 7th-tier alchemist, and they must go to the Sea of Soul Formation. Many people knew that, if truth be told, but in the face of such amazing treasures, it was very difficult for them to suppress their greed. So, a round of frenzied bidding followed, with the bidders mostly coming from those aristocratic families. When the price of something that could not be used by common people went beyond a certain level in an auction, it was only natural for them to give up. But for aristocratic families, when they purchased something in an auction, it was not for immediate use most of the time, but would be passed down the generations as a kind of reserve of their families. As a result, these families had accumulated unimaginable wealth and treasures, and when they were facing a crisis, they could turn these things into their fighting force to help them sail through the difficult times. After a heated, almost violent bidding war, 3 jade slips were auctioned off for a total of 22,000 superior-grade primordial stones. The recipe of Xiaoyang pill was purchased by Su Zijua with 6,500 superior-grade primordial stones. To him, the price was heartbreakingly high, but his eyes still shone with extreme excitement. The recipe of 5 mountains clothes was won by Xian Ruyu, and the pale wolf sword diagram went to another distinguished room. After all, they were just 2 recipes and a diagram, and they could not be materialized in the short term. Therefore, their prices were far below that of the cauldron of 5 elements. Still, the result was beyond Yunxiao's expectation, and he was grinning from ear to ear in his room. I should really take out more things to sell. What a fortune they have made me this time. Although he said it like that, he knew in his heart that he would invite trouble if he took out too many things in one go. He might have already caught the attention of all the aristocratic families now. Humph! So what? Since I've already offended half of the 4 major aristocratic families in Firecrow Empire, I don't mind adding 1 or 2 more. As long as my strength can be improved rapidly, they are just a motley crowd. Yunxiao thought in his head. His words startled the others, however, causing cold sweats to break out of their foreheads. How many things are there in this lad's head? Does he still have other 7th-tier items? The fact that a 3rd-tier alchemist could record down things of the 7th tier with divine sense had already toppled their common sense. Luckily, they had gradually become accustomed to this kind of shock that weakened their hearts. In Xiaoyang was the one who received the greatest shock. This lad's master must be on the same level as Elder Yuan. He is simply a monster. Su Zijua could hardly contain his excitement after winning the pill recipe. He paced back and forth in the room at the backstage with his eyebrows tightly frowned. After some time, he turned to Gon Deming and said, "Stop all investigations into Li Yunxiao at once." Gon Deming was stunned. Puzzled, he asked, "Why? I thought he has become more suspicious after what happened today, and we should crank up the investigation." "No," Su Zijua said coldly. "Who knows what would be the power behind a man who can take out some 7th-tier recipes to be auctioned off? Besides, look at how that Yin Xiaoyang follows behind him like a little pet dog. If our investigation annoys him, I fear the consequence is not something both of us can afford." A wary look flashed across Gon Deming's face, but when he thought of Yin Xiaoyang's arrogant face, he felt he was boiling with rage again. Humph! That Yin Xiaoyang is nothing but a big flatterer. "In any case, we will not help or harm this Li Yunxiao," Su Zijua said faintly. "We will stand in the middle and do what we should, so that even if we can't get any benefits from him, we will not invite trouble to ourselves. Yin Xiaoyang's excessive hospitality may not bring him to a good end. I'll leave for Firecrow Empire in a few days, and I will hand all the affairs here to both of you for the time being." Gon Deming nodded. He knew Su Zijua was going to look for someone to refine the Xiaoyang pill for him. Su Zijua was cultivating a soul-tempering technique that could bring him a limitless future, but it had a very strict requirement. That was, it could only reach perfection when the cultivator had a pure yang body. He had thought he would be stuck at the 5th tier for the rest of his life, but it seemed that the heavens had heard his prayers and brought him the recipe of the Xiaoyang pill. With it, his achievement in this life would not just stop at the 5th tier. The crowd quieted down after all 3 jade slips were auctioned off, but their heads were filled with awe and speculation toward the people in Yunxiao's distinguished room. Mr. May had returned to normal as well. He chuckled and said, "The items added last minute this year are the most amazing ones I've seen over all my years as an auctioneer." Now, we come back to the items on the list. The next item is a 4th tier array artifact. Although it is only 4th tier, it is engraved with an extremely rare soul-tempering array, which has an enhanced effect on the alchemist's soul power and covers a range of 1,000 meters. It is truly a peerless treasure that all alchemists wish for. Su Zijua's eyes showed a trace of regret. Artifacts that could enhance one's soul power such as this could only be refined by some legendary alchemists, and each was so rare that any alchemist would fight for it when they saw one. Originally, he planned to purchase this array artifact, but he lacked the wealth to buy it after paying for the pill recipe. Oh, a treasure that can enhance one's soul power? Those alchemists are going to be crazy this time. Haha, that's what I thought. Well, since they are so rich, it is a pleasure to watch them fight against each other. This kind of thing was of little use to warriors, so most people just looked on as if it was a show. Meanwhile, a handful of alchemists became extremely nervous, with their eyes lighting up. From his room on the 2nd floor, Yunxiao fixed his eyes at the array artifact on the auction stage. He could not help but sigh. Even I cannot refine an array artifact that can enhance one's soul power like this. They are all left behind by the almighty experts of the ancient times, and their quantity is getting lesser and lesser. Meng Bai said shockingly, "What? Even someone so amazing as Master can't refine it? This artifact must be something extraordinary." The others just smiled and made no further comment. None of them knew that Yunxiao was referring to his previous life when he said that. He had not been able to master the art of carving the soul-enhancing array like this even when he was at his prime. As for whether someone else on the continent could, he did not know. He lifted his eyes slightly, which gleamed brightly. This array artifact was his primary target. He had purposely requested the 3 jade slips to be auctioned off before it, so that he could have enough primordial stones to buy it. As soon as Mr. May's voice faded away, Yunxiao shouted, 5,000 superior-grade primordial stones. The people down below all sucked in a cold breath, astonished by the fact that the first bid was already so high. 5,000 superior-grade primordial stones were equivalent to 500,000 medial-grade primordial stones. This was how a rich man should have bid, they thought, and they all knew the man in that room had just gotten himself 20,000 superior-grade primordial stones. The rest of the alchemists were dumbfounded. If this rich man insisted on buying this array artifact, what hope did they have? 6,000 superior-grade primordial stones. An alchemist stood up and shouted, his eyes almost turning bloodshot. Ha! 10,000! Yunxiao chuckled. Although his voice was not loud, it rumbled like a sudden thunderclap in all ears down below. He had just increased his bid by 4,000. That shut all the mouths in the hall. Mr. May smiled, and he was about to slam his hammer on the table and count down when Xin Ruyu's voice suddenly rang out of the distinguished room of the imperial family. 12,000. Yu Jilin was slightly taken aback. Your Highness, why do you need this thing? Besides, the price of 12,000 is... With a smile on his face, Xin Ruyu said, I'm just having a little fun, testing our neighbor and finding out how high a price can he afford. Perhaps, only a member of the Xian family could use 12,000 superior-grade primordial stones to have a little fun. Yu Jilin could only smile wryly and shake his head at the thought. Yunxiao frowned slightly and said to himself, What the hell? Then, he shouted in a cold voice, 15,000! Ha! Here's the show. He's fighting against the imperial family. It's hard to guess who will win in the end. The imperial family certainly is richer, but would they spend so much to buy an array artifact? I think the imperial family will win. They are richer and they have their dignity to take care of. Not necessarily. Would the mystery man in that room be someone ordinary, when he could take out 3 7th-tier recipes to be auctioned off. Just as the crowd was speculating, Xianxia thought for a moment and called, 18,000! Everyone sucked in a cold breath while Yunxiao's eyes burned with rage. 20,000! He cried out darkly. Xianxia's eyes gleamed, and it looked like he wanted to increase the bid again. But Yu Jilin could watch it no longer. So he said, with his forehead covered in cold sweat, Your Highness, I think that's enough. Any more bid will make the loss too tremendous to bear. The crown prince glanced at him and chuckled. I was going to increase the bid just one more time, since our neighbor had just gotten himself 22,000 superior grade primordial stones. Apparently, he had sold the 3 7th-tier recipes for this array artifact. Well, since Uncle Yu has said so, I'll just let him save some money. Yu Jilin was somewhat speechless. Let him save some money? Because of you, he now has to pay 10,000 extra. Perhaps he already hates you to the bone. Even Mr. May had a wry smile on his face. Anyone would feel pain if he had to pay so many extra primordial stones for no apparent reason. But there was still a burst of joy in his heart. After all, the higher the price, the higher his commission. After shouting 3 times, he finally slammed his hammer on the table. Yunxiao's eyes almost spat flames as he said in an icy cold voice, The imperial family of Firecrow Empire. I swear I will make you pay 1,000 times for my 10,000 superior grade primordial stones. Yin Zhaoyang shook his head with a wry smile. This lad surely fears nothing and no one. By that time, Meng Wu had returned to the room. So, Yun Xiao called her over and whispered into her ears. She listened and nodded, then walked out of the room again. After that, Yun Xiao turned to Yin Zhaoyang and said, I thank you for the help, Elder Yin. I have to take my leave now as there's another matter that needs my attention. I'll look for you some other day to have a cup of tea and a chat. That gave Yin Zhaoyang a pause. The auction is not yet finished. Don't you want to stay to the end, young Master Yun? No need. I've gotten what I wanted. I'll see you next time. He signaled Xiao Qingwang and others with his eyes. Seeing that, everyone stood up and left the room, walking out the auction hall through its back door. Meng Bai did not understand. Master, where did you send my sister? There's something else I need her to do for me. We left early so we can make preparations. Preparations? Chen Dashing was slightly taken aback, but when he saw the evil smile in Yun Xiao's eyes, he cried out shockingly, You're not going to rob the imperial family of Firecrow Empire? Are you? Are you crazy? Yun Xiao laughed. No. I'll deal with the Xian family at a later time. I must get the cauldron of 5 elements from the Zhou family. I've monitored with my divine sense just now. They only sent 3 people, 2 7-stars martial kings and a 1-star great martial master. Although their numbers are small, their strength is far greater than ours. We cannot succeed without proper planning. This lad is truly daring, Xiao Qingwang thought with a wry smile. Still, he said, 2 7-stars martial kings? We can give it a try if Li Chunyang and Dark Thunder were here. But how are we going to do it now? Yun Xiao asked. How long would it take you to kill one of them? Xiao Qingwang pondered a moment. We only know they are 7-stars martial kings, but not their actual fighting strength. It would take at least the time for half an incense stick to burn if his strength is at the standard level, and if he determines to flee, I might not be able to kill him. After all, he was just a peak 8-stars martial king. Such a gap could be easily overcome with martial techniques and mystic weapons. Yun Xiao told him his plan. I'll give you an enhanced origin blasting pill later, which can boost your strength to the peak level of martial king realm for a short time. Don't take it if you can finish him within the time for half an incense stick to burn, because your injury has not been completely healed, and I fear it will trigger other changes. As for the other martial king, I will think of a way to trap him for about the same length of time. We can just ignore that 1-star great martial master. Trap a martial king for the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn? Shocked, Xiao Qingwang said incredulously. With just the few of you? As an 8-stars martial king, he knew how strong a 7-stars martial king was, and he knew a warrior of this level could never be trapped by a few martial lords and martial masters. In fact, they might be instantly killed by him. Yunxiao chuckled. That's why I want to leave early, because we need to lie in wait on their way back to Firecrow Empire. Qingwang, you are the key to our ambush. I can trap the other martial king, but it would not be for too long. You need to finish your opponent within the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn. Xiao Qingwang said seriously. With the origin blasting pill as the backup, there will be no problem. Great. Since the Zhou family is willing to pay such a high price for the cauldron, it only means they need it urgently. They will rush back to Firecrow Empire as soon as the auction is ended. Let's set up the ambush now. After the plan was explained, the group of people vanished outside the auction hall. By then, the auction was coming to an end. With the last item auctioned off, the crowd was prepared to leave. Suddenly, Su Zizhua shouted in a loud voice, "Stay for a while and listen, my friends. This young lady wishes to have a word with you all." The crowd looked over in surprise and saw Meng Wu walk gingerly up the stage. After the 3 jade slips, everyone was somewhat interested in the power this little girl represented. So they all stopped in place, wondering what she was about to say. The glances made Meng Wu nervous. "My lord is the city lord of Yanwu, Li Yunxiao, and he has asked me to bring a few words to you all." "What? The power behind this girl is actually the city lord of Yanwu? How's that possible? How could a city lord of a small state have such an incredible reserve? She's bluffing, isn't she? Let's hear what she wants to say." Meng Wu heard those doubts and hurriedly said, "Young Master Yun said as he has just taken the office of the city lord, and he wishes to further expand and develop Yanwu. So he needs your help. Therefore, he has asked me to announce the recruitment details here. The remunerations are as follows. If a great martial master is willing to join Yanwu, he or she will be given a second-tier mystic weapon, 10 second-tier medicinal pills of any kind, and 100 superior-grade primordial stones. If a martial lord is willing to join Yanwu, he or she will be given a third-tier mystic weapon, 10 third-tier medicinal pills of any kind, and 1,000 superior-grade primordial stones. If a martial king is willing to join Yanwu, he or she will be given a 4th-tier mystic weapon, 10 4th-tier medicinal pills of any kind, and 10,000 superior-grade primordial stones. If you are a warrior beyond the 5 elements realm and you are willing to join us, you can look for young Master Yun directly, and he will certainly come up with something that satisfies you. On top of that, all warriors who join Yanwu will have an unlimited supply of primordial stones, medicinal pills, mystic weapons, and other resources to aid their cultivation. However, if anyone joins us just for a free lunch, he or she will have to bear the consequences." "What? Such treatment?" Everyone was dumbfounded and froze on the spot. Where does Yanwu get so many resources? Heavens! Is this for real? I think so. You've seen him bid just now. He should have deep pockets. He is even recruiting experts beyond the 5 elements realm. Is he trying to establish a new sect? Even the state of Tianshui as a whole can't afford that, can it? Su Zizhua was shocked as well. He did not expect that from her, and the remuneration was enough to tempt any warrior. There were many warriors who followed alchemists, and all they wanted were medicinal pills and mystic weapons, which they might not get even after working hard for the alchemists. But now, anyone who joined Yanwu would immediately get those things. It was simply a heaven-defying offer. Even Xianxia was slightly taken aback, but he quickly returned to normal. Meanwhile, Eugeline's face grew serious as he said, "Does this city lord of Yanwu want to establish a new sect? But it is plain that he can't do that just by recruiting a motley crowd like this." With a faint smile on his face, Xianxia said, "I'm very interested to meet this city lord of Yanwu now. I think the people of the Xingyang family and the Cheng family will be here to seek revenge in less than 3 days. He is just recruiting cannon fodder with what seems to be lucrative remunerations. He doesn't have to pay these people when they are dead." "I see." An understanding look jumped up Eugeline's face, and a faint sneer brushed his lips as he watched the excited warriors down below. "Little girl, what would be the procedure if I wished to join you?" a warrior asked aloud, the beaming look on his face saying he was tempted. Almost all the warriors in the hall had the same thought, Let's get the things first before I consider if I want to contribute my force to you. You just need to sign up at the City Lord Mansion tomorrow, said Meng Wu, her cheeks flushing. All right. I'll be the first to reach there tomorrow, the warrior said excitedly. The rest of the people showed interest as well, and someone said, even if you don't sign up, it is good to have a look. Inside the distinguished room of the Zhou family, Zhou Chuan frowned as he looked at all the excited warriors down below. This city lord of Yanwu seems to be that Li Yunxiao who will have a match with young master. Don't you think so? Shi Rueda said in astonishment. I heard about it too. He seems to have not shown due respect for young master during the appointment of Tianshui's crown prince. Some said he is just a young man with the cultivation base of a martial master. What? He wants to fight young Master Yushan with just the cultivation base of a martial master? He's dreaming, Pang Qingguen sneered. Since he is recruiting warriors in large numbers now, he must be planning to go back on his own word. I think he is afraid that young master will attack him out of rage. So he is recruiting more men to help him defend against the Zhou family. Humph. A motley crowd, Zhou Chuan said disdainfully. After young master makes the breakthrough and become a martial king, he will come in person to settle the score with this guy. Let's delay no more and go back at once. Young master is waiting to study the cauldron of 5 elements. Their figures flickered, and they were gone from the distinguished room in the next instant. Wanggu Mountain was located some 30 miles outside Yanwu, and was the only way to Firecrow Empire. A blue wolf hover chariot sped through the air. After leaving the auction hall, Zhou Chuan and the other 2 set off immediately for Firecrow Empire. Although they had noble status, they were nothing but servants in front of the heir of the Zhou family, so they did not dare to delay for even a brief while. This is? Zhou Chuan was taken aback. Peering ahead in horror, he said shockingly, Look, what's going on here? That woke Pang Qingguen and Shi Rueda from their meditation. They hurried over to the front of the chariot and saw a huge mountain blocking the way. Are you taking a wrong road, Zhou Chuan? Said Shi Rueda. Zhou Chuan's face was full of horror as he said firmly, This is the correct road. We took the same road when we came, and I'm sure there was no mountain here. Pang Qingguen had a dubious look and a frown on his face. You mean a mountain suddenly appeared here over the last few days? He laughed. Although those almighty experts could move mountains and topple seas in legends, that's just an exaggeration. No one in the world can move a mountain. Shi Rueda was laughing too. You're just too nervous, Zhou Chuan. Quickly turn around, or you will hit the mountain soon. Zhou Chuan lowered his head and looked at the chariot's recording needle in silence. This is the road we took when we came here. It can't be wrong. Besides, this mountain looks very familiar. It seems like that Wanggu mountain beside the road. Be careful. I have a bad feeling, Zhou Chuan warned as he carefully adjusted the chariot's course. Although he felt strange, he could not just do nothing and watch as the chariot ran into the mountain. Pang Qingguen and Shi Rueda smiled at each other. They did not take the warning seriously, and they thought he was just overreacting. As both of them were much stronger, they were already not happy with Zhou Chuan leading the group. And now, they simply did not cover the mocking look on their faces. All of a sudden, a dark cloud drifted over them, veiling the sky and blocking the sunlight and turning the world dark. They looked up, and what they saw immediately scared the wits out of them. It was not a dark cloud, but a great mountain several thousand miles in circumference falling rapidly from the sky, and their chariot was right beneath it. They had nowhere to run. H! Run for your life! Pang Qingguen screamed and leaped out of the chariot, rushing toward the distance like a bolt of lightning. The mountain was so huge that even a martial grandmaster or martial supreme would be crushed to death instantly. Not to mention a mere martial king like him. The other 2 men were terrified as well. In desperation, they jumped out of the chariot and ran crazily away from it. The mountain is moving. Someone really can move a mountain. Zhou Chuan was utterly shocked as he put all his strength into his legs and ran for his life. The mountain fell rapidly. Although they had been running with all their strength, they could not avoid it, and it seemed they were about to be crushed into some meat paste. Their eyes were wide with terror, Roaring, they unleashed their primordial chi, which formed into layers of strong shields around them. With cold sweat trickling down their foreheads, they watched as the mountain came crashing down on them. Just when they were about to make the last struggle before death, the mountain suddenly twisted and distorted, then turned into streams of light and quickly scattered in the air, dissolving into a myriad of colorful light dots and flying into the eyes of a man standing not far ahead on the road. The sky turned bright and clear, and the Wangu mountain that blocked the way was gone. Turned out that everything was just an illusion. The young man with a pair of strange eyes looked slightly pale. It was plain that the grand scale of the illusion just now had consumed a significant amount of his spirits. Meanwhile, a hint of a smile brushed his lips, and he began to perform all kinds of incantation gestures, sending them into the chariots. In just the blink of an eye, the blue wolf shrunk in midair into a mini chariot and fell into his hand. "Who are you? How dare you fool us?" Pang Qingguen flew into a rage. Sure Rueda was boiling as well. His murderous aura exploded out instantly, which pushed his clothes up and made him look double in size. The young man put away the chariot as he smiled and said, "Greetings, my friends. I'm Li Yunxiao, the city lord of Yanwu." That did not quench Pang Qingwen's flame of anger even a little bit. His eyes gleamed with killing intent as he said coldly, "The city lord of Yanwu? How dare you fool us? You are digging your own grave." They did not even regard the monarch of Tianshui as someone important, let alone a mere city lord. Zhou Chuan's face flickered, but he was much calmer than the other two men. "Greetings, my lord. May I know the reason my lord does this to us?" Yunxiao smiled faintly and thought a little bit highly about Zhou Chuan. "Well, as I had just taken the office a few days ago, I'm a little short of money. In addition to borrowing the Blue Wolf chariot from you, another reason I come to you is to borrow the Cauldron of 5 Elements. When Yanwu gets richer, I'll definitely return it to you personally." "Borrow the Cauldron of 5 Elements?" Pang Qingguen roared with laughter, as if he had just heard the funniest joke in the world. "Ha ha! You are just a mere martial master. And, do you know who you are talking to?" "Well, I really don't know your names, but I'm not interested either. So save your breath. I'll leave once I get the cauldron." "Boy!" Sure Rueda's face turned dark as his aura spread, rumbling out like a mighty storm. He pointed a finger at Yunxiao's face and bellowed, "Are you a real fool or you're just pretending to be one? Do you really know who we are? Do you know the consequence you will face after this?" Yunxiao's expression did not change and the smile still hung on his face. Lightly, he lifted a hand and waved it down, which broke Sure Rueda's pressure of a 7 stars martial king apart and sent it out in all directions behind him. Sure Rueda's face fell. He knew how strong his pressure was, which even a martial lord would find it hard to resist. This boy is just a 5 stars martial master. How did he break my pressure with a slap? And although he seemed to have thrown out the slap casually, I could feel a very profound martial essence in it. Zhou Chuan was taken aback as well. In a deep voice, he said, "We are from the Zhou family of Firecrow Empire. Do you really want to offend us?" Yunxiao laughed. "Yes, it is the Zhou family I am looking for, and you are the people I want to borrow from. As one of the 4 major aristocratic families of Firecrow, surely you are not so stingy, are you?" The look on Zhou Chuan's face grew uglier. "You are the one who killed the people of Cheng family and Xingyang family a few days ago, aren't you?" he said coldly. "Do you really want to be enemies with 2 great families at the same time? Have you ever thought of the consequences? These families with thousands of years of history can easily crush you with just a finger." "Families with thousands of years of history?" A sneer appeared on Yunxiao's face. "I've offended many existences with millions of years of history." "Crazy, he's really crazy." Zhou Chuan was speechless. How can there be such people in the world? He's just unreasonable. If it were not for the importance of the Cauldron of 5 Elements and he did not want anything bad to happen to it, he would not have held back his anger and reasoned with Yunxiao. "Stop wasting your breath with him." Face livid with rage, Pang Qingguen looked at Zhou Chuan and growled, "Just kill him." Among the 3, Zhou Chuan was the leader, and without his order, the other two men could not attack. Although both Pang Qingguen and Shi Ruida were unhappy with this arrangement, they could not violate the Zhou family's rules, or they would have to face serious punishment. Zhou Chuan was already fuming, so he clenched his jaws and shouted, "Attack!" No sooner had his voice faded away than Pang Qingguen rushed out. He was already trembling with rage. He wanted nothing but to break this boy's bones and rip him into pieces. He swore to himself that once he killed this boy and escorted the cauldron back, he would return to Yanwu again and kill everyone in the city lord mansion. "Take it easy, young man." Suddenly, a flat voice rang out, and Xiao Qingwang appeared before Yunxiao in the next instant. He clenched his left palm into a fist and gently thrust it out. With it in the center, the surrounding air spun and turned into a whirlwind, which sucked over all the natural primordial qi within tens of meters around and compressed them as the fist smashed toward Pang Qingguen. An 8 stars martial king. Pang Qingguen's pupils constricted as a look of horror appeared on his face. The punch, which was more powerful than his attack, had targeted him, and its pressure was so strong that he felt hard to breathe. He screamed in fear, "An 8 stars martial king? How's that possible? How can there be an 8 stars martial king in such a tiny city?" Zhou Chuan's face fell as he said in shock, You are Xiao Qingwang, the martial king of Tianshui. How dare you go against the Zhou family? Are you not afraid that you will bring a calamity that will destroy Tianshui?" Xiao Qingwang smiled and said indifferently, "It doesn't matter. You." Zhou Chuan was rendered speechless. Crazy. They are all crazy. If they are not afraid of even the elimination of their own state, how can they be afraid of being killed? Meanwhile, Pang Qingguen rotated his primordial qi to the maximum and threw both his palms out, countering the punch with a look of horror on his face. Bam! The impact knocked Pang Qingguen flying away, which startled Zhou Chuan. He knew they were in real trouble this time, because their opponents came prepared. "Help him, Shi Ruida." Although his heart sank, Zhou Chuan did not panic. Their opponent was, after all, a mere city lord, and if he had the strength to defeat them, he would have attacked them directly and not fooled them with an illusion that made them abandon their chariot. Shi Ruida was about to strike when 4 rays of light, each coming in a different color, suddenly shot out of the ground in 4 directions. Then, a huge square emerged beneath his feet and quickly turned into the form of an array. Meanwhile, 2 men appeared out of nowhere and separately knelt on one knee outside the array, inserting one hand into each ray of light as they began to pour their primordial qi into them. As the 2 different powers flowed into the array, the 4 rays of light grew stronger and spread out from all 4 corners, forming into a jail of 4 colors.